Chapter 234. Darkness is the eternal destination. Death is the inevitable journey. After the Mahakala demon god manifested, it swept a glance below with its majestic aura. Its nose twitched. I smell blood and death. Boom! The destruction demon god landed heavily from the sky, causing the ground to rumble. I hate your sour way of doing things the most. The Mahakala demon god of destruction curled its lips, a string of sparks spurting out of its nostrils. Turning its head to look at the Marquis of Champion and the rest, Destruction Heaven raised a giant flaming hammer in his hand and pointed it at the demon god, transformed by the Marquis of Champion. "Aunt, how do you want to die?" "Aha, how interesting." The demon god, transformed by the Marquis of Champion, looked up at the two giant demon gods. "After being a god for so long, is your brain not enough? You're only at the level of a 4-tribulation ghost immortal, and you dare to be arrogant in front of me?" Raising a finger and shaking it lightly, the Marquis of Champion said disdainfully, "Both of you, come at me together. Aunt, you're courting death." Destruction Heaven roared, swinging his giant hammer and smashing it down on the Marquis of Champion's head. "Embrace darkness." Mahakala clasped his hands together. Endless darkness bloomed in his hands. "Idiot!" The Marquis of Champions snorted angrily. The demon god body, formed by his spirit, collapsed instantly. A clear light flashed. The Marquis of Champion's body appeared, and his spirit returned to his body instantly. Facing two demon gods, his spirit body alone could not withstand them. At this time, there was no need to hide his identity, so the Marquis of Champion changed back to his immortal body. Roar! A series of thunder-like roars erupted from the acupoints all over his body. After revealing his immortal body, the Marquis of Champion roared at the sky. His mighty immortal blood chi was like the sun in the sky. His violent martial will was like a volcanic eruption. Boom! The immortal roared, and the ghost immortals were terrified. Ghost referred to the ghost immortals. God referred to the incense gods. Even Mahakala and Destruction Heaven, who were equivalent to 4-tribulation ghost immortals, were stunned by the Marquis of Champion's roar. Avicii killing Tao. The heavenly light horned godly armor on his body burst out a burst of blood-red brilliance, and the divine spear of war in his hand was like a furious dragon leaving his shackle. On the tip of the spear, the light that was condensed to the extreme was like the stars at dawn, bright and glorious. Ka-ka-ka-ka. The spear's shadow pierced through the air, and a burst of continuous cracking sound resounded in the space. This was the sound of space shattering. This voice was not unfamiliar to Mahakala and Havoc Heaven. When a divine soul cultivator crossed 4 thunder tribulations, they could create a world with a single thought. After overcoming 5 lightning tribulations, one would be able to shatter the void. This cracking sound was the sound of an incomparably tyrannical power shattering the void. He's actually this powerful? Even an ordinary human immortal would not be able to win against 2 immortals who had undergone 4 thunder tribulations. There was a very important problem here. That was, deities could fly, but beginner human immortals could not. 2 deities with 4 lightning tribulations were flying in the sky. Under the constant bombardment, even a beginner human immortal would be defeated sooner or later. But this kind of power that could even shatter the void was not something a beginner human immortal could do. Even an advanced human immortal with all his acupoints fully opened would probably only be at this level, right? Of course, after an advanced human immortal, the fist intense substance, rebirth from a drop of blood, infinite transformation, and even shattering the void were not the same concepts. Facing the Marquis Champion's move, the 2 demon immortals withdrew their arrogant attitude, and their expressions turned serious. Endless black sky, dark sky veil. Endless darkness rushed out from Mahakala's hand, turning into a black crystal-like light veil, blocking in front of him. Wall of destruction. The blazing giant hammer in Havoc Heaven's hand turned into a giant wall-like shield, blocking the Marquis Champion's spear. 2 points of spear light flashed, and the dazzling cold light swept across the sky like shooting stars. Crack! The dark sky veil was pierced through like an eggshell. Crack! The giant wall-like shield was pierced through like a piece of paper. Ah! Roar! A huge hole opened up in the chests of the two deities, and wisps of green smoke were emitted, as if they were scorched by a blazing fire. The chi and blood of a human immortal to the deities and divine souls was like a raging fire. Is it very painful? You won't feel any pain soon. A deep black light suddenly flashed out from the Marquis Champion's hand. Like a seed sprouting, it grew rapidly and instantly turned into a pitch-black flower. Dark Mandara, how did you? The two deities who were stabbed by the Marquis Champion suddenly saw the Dark Mandara flower in the Marquis Champion's hand, and were both shocked and amused. You want to use the Dark Mandara canopy to deal with us? As the four great deities of the Yunmeng Kingdom, they were extremely familiar with this signature skill of the profound Heaven Holy Land. How could this sealing skill possibly seal Mahakala and Havoc Heaven? They could break free from a seal in less than a breath. It seems like we can beat them at their own game. Wait for that kid to think that we are sealed, and then suddenly attack him without warning. The two deities looked at each other, and the moment their divine souls touched, they completed the communication. Thus, they pretended to be heavily injured and did not react quickly, allowing the Marquis Champion's sealing boundary to envelop the two deities. The seal of the womb concealment enchantment rotated and sealed the two god spirits. In an instant, they turned into a pitch-black crystal. The two deities were eager to try, waiting for the moment the Marquis Champion to put away the crystal, and then they would immediately break the seal and launch a surprise attack, attempting to kill the Marquis Champion in one strike. Then, there was no then. Idiots! The Marquis Champion sneered, and the image of Taotai soared into the sky. Under the shocked gazes of the two deities, Taotai swallowed the pitch-black crystal formed by the canopy in one gulp. Idiots who think themselves clever. The Marquis Champion curled his lips in disdain. You say that others are idiots, but you yourself are not that smart. My son, a faint voice rang out. This voice was very soft and also very calm, as if it was an ordinary conversation. However, after this voice rang out, the entire space suddenly froze. A boundless aura enveloped the entire Tianju Mountain. The wind stopped, the clouds stopped, and everything in the surroundings seemed to not dare to move after this voice rang out. Yang Pan, hearing this voice, the Marquis Champion's expression changed, and he suddenly turned to look behind him. On the forehead of the long-dead commander of the Dark Dragon Guards, Yang Pan, a dazzling radiance lit up. With a rumble, the radiance blossomed like the sun in the sky. A stalwart middle-aged man with a dignified bearing appeared from the radiance. My son, no wonder you grew up so quickly. It turns out that the treasure of Emperor Yu's cave actually fell into your hands. Autar Qian's figure landed on the ground, and he walked step by step towards the Marquis Champion with a smile on his face. My son, on the day you were born, I knew there was something wrong with you. That's why I used a technique to fuse your spirit and body, making it impossible for your spirit to escape. Autar Qian glanced at the Marquis Champion and sighed as he shook his head. In any case, you are still father and son. I originally thought that I could at least let you have a good ending. Unfortunately, you don't know when to stop and are seeking your own death. We can only send you on your way. TSK. Don't talk about being father and son. There aren't any outsiders, so what's the point of being so hypocritical? The Marquis Champion curled his lips. If it weren't for my extraordinary talent and being able to be raised as a fighter, would you have let me live until now? Now that you feel that you can't control yourself, you want to kill me? Heh. Autar Qian smiled, but did not reply. Old fellow, you came with a clone? I heard that the great Zen temple's future, lifeless scripture fell into your hands. Could this clone be the future master? The Marquis Champion glanced at Autar Qian and asked curiously, My son is indeed more intelligent than others. This is the clone of the future master that I refined. The future master can calculate the future. I can see the great world as clearly as the lines on my palm. Autark Chien seemed to be very interested in chatting with the Marquis champion. Calculate the future? The Marquis champion chuckled. Old fellow, have you calculated your own future? Rumble. An earth-shattering explosion sounded, and a gorgeous spiritual light circulated, forming a huge formation on the ground. Chapter 235. BZZZ. The Yuan Qi of heaven and earth vibrated. Streaks of ink-black spiritual light whizzed around and instantly formed a huge magic array. A deep darkness took the form of a datura flower in the air. Its vast aura caused the clouds to change color and the sun to dim. The dark heaven extreme darkness, the datura formation. Autark Chien smiled as he glanced at the formation that had suddenly manifested. He nodded in approval. Is this your trump card? My son seems arrogant, but he's actually quite cunning. Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Then you'll have to enjoy it. The Marquis champion coldly glanced at Autark Chien and waved his hand. Seal. As soon as he finished speaking, the giant devil's snare floating in the air suddenly descended, covering the Chien Emperor's head. This was the Marquis champion's trump card. He had laid down the datura formation in order to deal with Autark Chien's possible attack. If he used the Great Wound formation to seal Autark Chien, the Marquis champion would be able to use the Taodai Jade Pendant to devour him, even if it was only for a short time. Just like those two gods, once they were devoured by the Taodai, no matter how powerful they were, they could only obediently accept death. Using a formation to deal with me? The datura flower petals closed in on Autark Chien, but his expression didn't change at all. Instead, a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. Since you know this is the incarnation of the future Lord, don't you know his specialty? He can calculate the greater thousand with a single thought. I've already memorized this datura formation of yours many years ago. Autark Chien extended a finger and waved it. Crack! The datura flower petals crumbled one by one. With just a flick of a finger, the Marquis champion's trump card, the datura formation, had crumbled. Old fogey. Even an incarnation is this powerful? The Marquis champion grimaced and tightened his grip on the divine spear of war. If he couldn't seal it, he could only fight. The Marquis champion had some understanding of the incarnation of the future Lord. At the very least, he knew that this was only an incarnation of his soul. Old fogey, you say I'm arrogant. You are the one who is truly arrogant. A divine soul incarnation is actually so close to me. A human immortal of the martial Tao? The Marquis of Champion took a step forward, and the blood and qi in his body erupted like a volcano. His acupoints emitted thunderous roars, and his young blood and qi were like the scorching sun in the sky. Avicii killing Tao. The Mang divine spear in his hand whistled, and the tip of the spear bloomed with a bright light. The tyrannical power caused the void to emit bursts of cracking sounds. Child, you're only arrogant if you don't have strength. Having strength is called confidence. Autark Chien smiled faintly. He clasped his hands together and formed a series of seals with his fingers. Kong Tu Ah seal, Great Compassion seal, Wish seal, Sky Capture seal, 10 Direction seal, 3 Realms seal, Vacuum seal. 8 mystical seals were formed in a row. In the end, the 8 seals combined into one and formed the 9th seal, the Great Perfection seal. Boom! A gigantic palm print soared into the sky with boundless might, shaking the void. Vacuum palm. The gigantic palm print that blotted out the sky slammed towards the Marquis of Champion. An incomparably huge force came crashing down as if the sky was collapsing. Boom! An earth-shattering sound rang out. The Marquis of Champion and his spear were sent flying by this slap. He crashed into the city walls and collapsed buildings, creating a huge crack in the city. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, the Marquis of Champion was sent flying for more than 10 miles before stabilizing himself. This old fellow is actually so strong. The Marquis of Champion wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with a sinister expression. Marquis, that's the vacuum palm, the strongest divine soul battle technique of our great Zen temple. It's on par with the strongest martial Tao battle technique, the Tathagata seal. It can move mountains and fill seas with boundless might. Marquis, you can't take it head-on. At this moment, Monk Jingren anxiously and nervously shouted at the Marquis of Champion. So there are still remnants of the great Zen temple here. Atar Qian glanced at Monk Jingren and ignored him. A beginner martial sage like Monk Jingren was not even an ant in front of Atar Qian. Atar Qian naturally had no interest in him. Vacuum palm. Huh? So what? The Marquis of Champion roared. The Skylight Horn Divine armor emitted a dazzling blood-colored radiance. The Warpath Divine spear in his hand buzzed and trembled like a roaring dragon. Old fellow, I'll show you what I'm capable of. The Marquis of Champion laughed sinisterly. With a flash of clear light, he disappeared. Avicii killing Dao. In the next instant, a dazzling spear light flashed behind Autarch Qian. The Marquis of Champion's figure shot out from behind Autarch Qian. He brandished his spear and ruthlessly stabbed at Autarch Qian. Ha! You've walked right in my trap. Autarch Qian did not seem surprised at the Marquis of Champion's sudden appearance. He still had a faint smile on his face. Vacuum palm capture. A huge palm suddenly appeared beside the Marquis of Champion. Its 5 fingers closed and directly grabbed the Marquis of Champion, who had just appeared. Even with the Marquis of Champion's human immortal martial Tao strength, there was no room for him to struggle. The Marquis of Champion had always liked to use this move, grabbing, imprisoning, and then swallowing the Tao Tai in one mouthful. At this moment, it was as if he had suffered retribution. The Marquis of Champion was caught in the same move and imprisoned in the same hand. You're saying that I've come to kill you because I can't control you anymore? Actually, you're wrong. Autar Qian looked at the Marquis of Champion with a smile. His eyes burned with passion, as if he had seen a rare treasure and could not bear to part with it. Human immortal body. You're not even 18 years old, but you've already cultivated the human immortal body. What kind of rare talent is this? What kind of rare opportunity is this? Autar Qian's face was fervent, his eyes shining. How many spirit medicines have I taken? How much effort have I put into it? My body's martial Tao cultivation is still only at the martial saint realm, unable to break through to the human immortal realm. It's a good thing that the heavens have treated me well and sent you, an 18-year-old human immortal, to me. As long as I possess your body, I can possess the human immortal body of martial Tao. Only with the human immortal martial Tao and the 9 tribulations of the divine soul will I have the possibility of ascending to the Yang spirit realm. This body is my son to begin with. As for you, you're just a reincarnated soul. Your flesh and blood came from your parents, so this body is naturally mine. Now it's time to return this body to me. Autarch Qian laughed loudly as his body collapsed, turning into a ray of light that charged into the Marquis of Champion's mind. In the Heart Lake's sea of consciousness, Autarch Qian's figure appeared, but before he could do anything, he saw the Marquis of Champion laughing loudly at him. Ha 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 ha! The Marquis of Champion pointed at Autarch Qian and laughed until he was out of breath, as if he had seen the most ridiculous thing in the world. You're about to die, what's so funny about that? Autarch Qian frowned slightly, his heart faintly feeling uneasy, as if something had gone beyond his calculations. I've seen people send themselves to their deaths, but I've never seen one send themselves to their deaths so thoroughly. The Marquis of Champion stopped laughing and said to Autarch Qian with a cold smile, "Since you know that I've obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure, don't tell me you didn't take any precautions at all?" Emperor Yu's supreme treasure? Autarch Qian was originally worried, but now he was completely at ease, his face relaxed. The future master of the great 1,000 worlds. Previously, when I saw you devouring those 2 demon gods, I had already calculated it. Emperor Yu's supreme treasure can only devour things that are sealed. It has no effect on me. You're right. The Marquis of Champion nodded seriously before revealing a mocking smile. Under normal circumstances, it would naturally be like that. But You're currently in Tai's mouth, ah. Autar Qian was shocked as his face changed greatly. Roar, a heaven-shaking roar sounded out, causing Autar Qian to feel his vision darken. Ha ha ha. The Marquis of Champion laughed loudly. Chapter 236. Ha ha ha. After swallowing Autar Qian's future incarnation, the Marquis Champion laughed heartily. Just as he opened his eyes, he suddenly realized that a copper rod was coming at him with a whistling wind. Severe warning. Monk Jingren looked ferocious, as though he was possessed by a furious Wisdom King. His blood boiled as he leaped into the air and swung his copper rod at the Marquis Champion. The so-called severe warning of Buddhism was to raise a rod and smash it at the opponent's head. If this rod landed, even the Marquis Champion's human immortal body would be smashed to pieces. Monk, what are you up to? The Marquis Champion hurriedly raised his spear and blocked Monk Jingren's ferocious attack. Huh, Master Marquis? Monk Jingren paused and looked at the Marquis Champion hesitantly. Master Marquis, it's really you? You haven't been possessed by that old bastard Yang Pan? This Marquis is such a wise and powerful person. Do you think it's so easy for others to take over my body? The Marquis of Champion rolled his eyes and pushed away Monk Jingren, who was standing in front of him. Ha! Monk Jingren rubbed his head and laughed foolishly. I thought that the old bastard had possessed Master Marquis. So. Monk, be careful. King Condor shouted anxiously. Monk, possession of the soul allows one to regain their original memories. Don't be fooled by him. Monk Jingren was shocked and raised the copper rod in his hand. Lie to your grandmother. The Marquis Champion roared angrily and scolded King Condor. You bastard, your Master Marquis is here perfectly fine. That old bastard Yang Pan. Do you think he can possess me? Are you blind? Monk Jingren and King Condor believed that the Marquis Champion was the real person. If Autar Qian had really possessed him, he wouldn't have scolded that old bastard Yang Pan. Even if he wanted to pretend, he wouldn't have to do it in front of two people he could easily crush. Master Marquis, please forgive me. Please forgive me. The Divine Eagle King ran over eagerly, dragging two half-dead figures in his hands. Nailan Shinyu? Black Wolf King? The Marquis of Champion cast a glance at the two figures that the Condor King was dragging, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. These two fellows exhausted all their strength to summon Mahakala and Destruction Heaven. In the end, they actually allowed me to take advantage of them. The war had already ended, but the impact of this war on this world was very far-reaching. Within the Western Cloud Empire, wherever the statues of Mahakala and Destruction were set up, the statues of Mahakala and Destruction collapsed under the horrified gazes of the believers. Mahakala and Havoc Heaven have fallen. The death of the two gods left the people of Yunmeng at a loss. Mahakala and Havoc Heaven have fallen. In the imperial palace of the Western Cloud Empire, Nailan Yihong suddenly stood up after hearing the news. His eyes shone brightly as he turned his head to look in the direction of the profound Heaven-Holy Land. The corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. The mysterious Sky Mansion Master and his wife are already dead. The Peacock King is also dead. Now that two of the four gods have fallen, the profound Heaven-Holy Land can already make a move. Within the Western Cloud Empire, the ruler of the profound Heaven-Holy Land was the royal family, but not the emperor. As the ruler of the Western Cloud Empire, he had always been suppressed by the profound Heaven-Holy Land. This made Nailan Yihong very unhappy. Now that such a good opportunity had appeared, Nailan Yihong naturally wanted to control the profound Heaven-Holy Land in his own hands. Unlike the ruler of the Western Cloud Empire, who was pleasantly surprised, the Qian Emperor was furious. Unfilial son, unfilial son, unfilial son, smashing the table in front of him with a slap. The veins on the Qian Emperor's forehead bulged. This unfilial son has actually grown to this extent? Human immortal of the martial Tao, ghost immortal of the divine soul, and Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. Even my future master's incarnation was swallowed by him. This is outrageous. Taking a deep breath, the Qian Emperor suppressed the anger in his heart and slowly regained his composure. Men, send an order to the Hamlet Academy. They have 1 month to decipher the heavenly book of Emperor Yu. Otherwise, they will be expelled from the Hamlet Academy for being ignorant and incompetent. In the hands of the champion marquis, Emperor Yu's supreme treasure displayed great power. The Qian Emperor began to attach more importance to the heavenly book of Emperor Yu. Unfilial son, you think I can't do anything to you? If not for the Dream God base, I could crush you with a wave of my hand. The Qian Emperor snorted. Unfilial son, don't even think about living in peace now that you've obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. I will spread this news to the world. At that time, you will become the target of public criticism. The Qian Emperor hated the champion marquis to the bone, but Li Yu was very fond of him. Not bad, child of wealth. Li Yu nodded with satisfaction after seeing the new items in the treasury. The first thing he took care of was the painting of the Origin Essence Temple. The Origin Essence Temple has a cultivation method called the Origin Essence Scripture. This method emphasizes the complementarity of the soul and body, combining essence, blood, and energy into one. It can use the body's essence, blood, to supplement the soul, and the soul to nourish the body. Although this was only an application of the complementarity of the soul and body, Li Yu could analyze more information about the fusion of the soul and body. System: extract the memories of the painting and record the Origin Essence Scripture into the treasury. Apart from the Origin Essence Scripture, the other things in the painting were of no use. Li Yu threw it aside and continued to deal with the remaining items. Mahakala and Destruction Sky. These two gods are evil gods and demonic gods. Apart from the power of the soul, they are completely worthless. Li Yu looked at the two gods and shook his head slightly. Even the cold moon goddess that he had taken in last time was still rotting in the treasury. Mahakala and Destruction Sky were even more worthless. System: decompose the two demonic gods into pure soul power and store them in the treasury. After dealing with the two demonic gods, Li Yu looked at the Qian Emperor's future master clone. This is a good thing. Li Yu chuckled and nodded. System: extract the future master's memories. The Qian Emperor cultivated the Sutra of Death from the future and cultivated such a future master clone. For many years, he had been using the future master's calculation ability to deal with everything. The future master's memories contained countless information. This was very useful to Li Yu. You've collected so many techniques? Apart from the Sutra of Death, the Righteous Sect, the Creation Sect, the Incense Sect, the Peach God Sect, the Great Zen Sect, the Shintian Sect, and the Most Supreme Sect. You've collected so many techniques from these sects? Looking at the future master's memories that the system had extracted, Li Yu was secretly speechless. All these years, the Qian Emperor had collected countless books openly and secretly, using the future master's calculation ability to deduce the path of the sun god. Just like Li Yu, he had collected the techniques of various sects and clans to refine his own great path. Fortunately, after working hard for most of his life, in the end, it's all mine. Li Yu smiled and nodded. System: enter the information extracted from the future master's memories into the treasury. After the information was processed, all that was left was the future master himself. I don't need the future master for now. Once my sovereign great path is perfected, I'll be able to absorb all the soul power and break through in one go. Everything that needed to be dealt with had been dealt with. Li Yu directly got the system to pay the champion marquis according to the ratio and no longer paid attention to it. Chapter 237. A day later, the champion marquis's report spread across the world. Great Ganqing Province Governor, Qing Province Army Commander, Champion Marquis Yang, and bow my head and report. Since the spring moon, I've been in charge of the South Ocean Navy to suppress the Cloud Mist Pirates. We fought the Cloud Mist Pirates in the desolate ocean domain. Relying on the Emperor's virtue, the soldiers risked their lives. 10 charges, 10 arbiters had captured 300 ships below the Cloud Mist and captured the Yuan main commander by Ashirwa. Since then, The four seas have calmed down. Those who offend my great God will be killed, no matter how far away they are. Good. Great job, Champion Marquis. A good man should be like that. Those who offend my great God will be killed, no matter how far away they are. All over Great Gone, numerous scholars recited the Champion Marquis' report, winning the cheers of everyone. All of a sudden, the Champion Marquis' name was as bright as the sun. Such a shocking achievement made the entire great Qin dynasty excited. From the officials to the state capitals, they all congratulated him. All of a sudden, the number of praises was like snow. Kacha, the Heaven Emperor, crushed the teacup in his hand. He was furious but could only pretend to be happy, smiling as he accepted the congratulations of the officials. The depression in his heart was indescribable. He pinched his nose and wrote a decree to praise the Champion Marquis, giving out all sorts of rewards before finally suppressing this matter. Following which, the Heaven Emperor also used his methods. A few days later, a piece of news that shocked all the cultivators in the world spread out. The Champion Marquis had obtained Emperor Yu's treasure. It was because of this treasure that the Champion Marquis was able to achieve such a shocking achievement and become invincible. Emperor Yu's treasure had the ability to change one's fate. No matter how bad one's talent was, it could allow one to improve by leaps and bounds. Even if one met a bottleneck, it could allow one to break through quickly. After obtaining Emperor Yu's treasure, one would become invincible. The moment this news spread out, the world was in an uproar. Countless people started to get restless. Marquis, when Monk Jingren and King Shun Ing heard this news, they instantly became anxious. If this news spread out, the Champion Marquis would become the enemy of the world. That old bastard Yang Pan's move was truly vicious. What are you afraid of? The Marquis of Champion smiled and looked up at the sky. It's already June. Xiaolei was already here. As long as this Marquis survives the lightning tribulation, even if the entire world is my enemy, what is there to fear? The Marquis is mighty. The divine Eagle King flattered him appropriately. Ha ha ha! The Marquis Champion laughed as he walked out of the hall. Boom! Dark clouds rolled in the sky as a thunderclap resounded through the world. Ha ha! The Marquis of Champion laughed aloud. His soul left his body, turning into a gust of wind that whistled into the sky and plunged into the rolling thunderclouds. The Champion Marquis is about to undergo tribulation? Liu was telling stories to Xiao Tingting and the little foxes when he suddenly heard the system prompt, which attracted Liu's attention. When the Marquis of Champion transcended the tribulation for the first time, he only let Tao Tai record the data. I'll be able to take a look at this tribulation. Liu casually ended the story and poisoned Snow White to death. Then, under the furious roars of Little Ting-Ting and Little Fox, he hurriedly ran away. Boom! At this moment, the Marquis of Champion had already charged into the thunderclouds. There were 9 stages to the thunder tribulation. Within the tribulation clouds, there were 9 layers of thunder seas that looked like ripples. The outermost layer was the first thunder sea. This thunder sea was used to temper the soul. From yin to yang, the endless thunderbolts cleansed the soul as though it was being sliced into pieces. The Marquis of Champion had already passed through this thunder tribulation and easily passed through the first thunder sea to reach the second thunder sea. The moment he entered the second thunder sea, the scenery of the world changed as though he had barged into an unknown world. Boom! Thunder roared and crackled. Amidst the flashes of lightning, countless sparkling streams of light burst out like countless dense, sparkling stars. These sparkling stars were like thorns, vaguely revealing a ferocious color as they emitted a murderous aura like an army of thousands. Kill! These sparkling stars were like a battle formation as they charged towards the soul of the Marquis of Champion wildly. These are all thoughts. After hundreds of millions of years after the deaths of the world, the remnant thoughts are actually accumulated in the thunderclouds. Liu saw this scene through the system connection and was slightly surprised. When he thought about how this world did not have a place like the 6 paths of reincarnation, he understood. The obsessions of all living beings could not be converted into reincarnation. Naturally, there would be remnants gathered. The corrosion of endless remnant thoughts is indeed a huge test. After being cleansed by the remnant thoughts, one's true nature will be revealed and the thoughts will be divided. I see. Liu quickly understood the principle of the second thunder tribulation. I wonder how the Marquis of Champion will deal with it. Holy *T, this works too? The Marquis of Champion directly manifested the image of Tao Tai. Facing the endless waves of remnant thoughts, he opened his huge mouth and swallowed them endlessly. Ha ha! Mere remnant thoughts, mere thunder tribulation, what are they worth? This Marquis is invincible. The Marquis of Champion laughed maniacally as his soul turned into a breeze and landed on the huge image of Tao Tai. With the image of Tao Tai, he ran amok in the second thunder tribulation, swallowing everything wherever he went. He was like a huge whale that was crazily devouring small fishes and shrimps. These remnant thoughts actually contain the power of lightning. When Liu saw the remnant thoughts handed over by Tao Tai, he actually discovered a strong and ferocious power of lightning. That's right. Since they have been accumulating in the thunderclouds for billions of years, these remnant thoughts have probably already merged with the thunderclouds. It is normal for them to contain the power of lightning. It's just that, if this is the case, wouldn't the Marquis of Champions' thunder tribulation be too simple? Just as Liu expected, Tao Tai swallowed the remnant thoughts and returned 20% to the Marquis of Champion. The power of lightning within the remnant thoughts flowed into the soul. The soul of the Marquis of Champion exploded with brilliant light and instantly split into countless thoughts. 2,400, 3,600, 4,800, 7,200. 7,200 thoughts shone brilliantly, each about the size of an egg. They shone brightly like luminous pearls. Ha ha ha! The second thunder tribulation has already passed. The Marquis of Champion laughed loudly as he charged into the third thunder tribulation. The manifestation of the third thunder tribulation was the greatest enemy in the heart of the Marquis of Champion, Emperor Qian. Thunder tribulation tempered the heart, using the power of lightning to destroy the enemy in the heart. Although this thunder tribulation was virtual, it was actually a manifestation of the Marquis of Champion's understanding. Therefore, Emperor Qian was incomparably powerful and had beaten the Marquis of Champion half to death. Fortunately, it was just a virtual manifestation and did not have any intelligence. The Marquis of Champion used the same trick and lured Emperor Qian into Tao Tai's huge mouth. Then it was just a matter of closing his mouth. After swallowing the power of lightning, the Marquis of Champion's soul expanded and he was revived on the spot. Then he charged into the fourth thunder tribulation with confidence. Fourth thunder tribulation, one thought, one world. Every thought of the Marquis of Champion fell into a small world. Then this small world was collapsing. Being able to use the power of the void, the Marquis of Champion dealt with it very easily. His divine soul came out in an instant. Then he drove Tao Tai and swallowed these small worlds one by one. The power of the void flowed into his soul. Every thought absorbed the power of the void. One thought, one world. Every thought could open up a small space. At this point, the Marquis of Champion instantly passed the fourth thunder tribulation. Such speed was extremely shocking. Chapter 238. System, connect to Tao Tai and scan the tribulation clouds. Liu took advantage of the Marquis Champion's tribulation to scan the lightning tribulation and let the system analyze it to see if he could gain anything. The power of the lightning tribulation could be said to be the most obvious power of the laws of heaven and earth in this world. Analyzing the laws of heaven and earth would be of great help to Liu's cultivation. Could it be that the Marquis Champion is still thinking of undergoing the tribulation? At this moment, Liu realized that the Marquis Champion was still thinking of charging into the fifth tribulation. Boom! A power that could shatter worlds appeared before his eyes. The endless void was destroyed before his eyes. The power that could destroy everything made the Marquis Champion shiver as a chill seeped out from his soul. The Marquis Champion hurriedly stopped at the edge of the fifth tribulation. I am unable to undergo the fifth tribulation for the time being, but it won't be for long. The Marquis Champion turned and charged out of the tribulation clouds. His soul was like the wind as it instantly returned to his body. Fourth tribulation, one thought, one world. His soul already possessed the power of the void. At this moment, the entire greater world and the endless void were no longer mysterious in the eyes of the Marquis Champion. The space before his eyes was no longer an unfathomable and formless object. In the eyes of the Marquis Champion, space was like layers of curtains stacked together to form a whole. But there were still gaps in between each layer of curtains. So, traversing through the void is through these gaps? The Marquis Champion let out a long breath as he felt refreshed. His entire body was filled with boundless power. Human immortal of the martial Tao, fourth tribulation of the soul. With my current strength, although I am not invincible, I am not afraid of anyone. The Marquis Champion laughed heartily. Congratulations to the Marquis for successfully undergoing the tribulation. Monk Jingren clasped his fists and congratulated. Marquis, how many lightning tribulations did you undergo this time? The Condor King looked at the Marquis Champion anxiously. Tribulation. He had wasted so many years and had yet to undergo a single lightning tribulation. But this Marquis in front of him did it in the blink of an eye. 4 lightning tribulations. The Marquis Champion chuckled. I should be able to undergo the 5th tribulation soon. Now that Autar Qian had spread the news of Marquis Champion obtaining Emperor Yu's supreme treasure, there would definitely be people knocking on his door very soon. So what if he transcended the tribulation? 4. For lightning tribulations? One thought, one world? The Divine Eagle King was aghast as he stared at the Marquis Champion with his mouth agape. Transcending 3 tribulations at once. It was almost impossible to find such a person in the world today. Even the Dream God base doesn't have that ability. This Marquis is blessed by the heavens, blessed by destiny. So what if I have this achievement? The Marquis Champion laughed heartily, looking pleased with himself. After continuously devouring 2 godly spirits and Autarch Qian's incarnation, the Marquis Champion's strength instantly rose by 3 levels. The Marquis Champion was even more satisfied with the Tao Tai Jade Pendant. There are plenty of experts in this world. What if I devoured Yang Pan's true body, Hong Xuanji, the vital energy of the Origin Essence God Temple, and even the Dream God base? To what extent can my strength increase? The Marquis of Champions' eyes glowed as a strong desire to plunder and possess filled his mind. If I continue to devour, I will definitely become invincible. The matter at the Heaven End Mountain had been concluded. The Marquis Champion left the cleanup work to Monk Jingrun and the Divine Eagle King while he returned to the South Sea Navy camp. The Autarch Qian's imperial edict had been issued, ordering the Marquis Champion to return to the capital. In truth, the Marquis Champion did not bring any troops with him other than a group of personal guards. After boarding the carriage, the Marquis Champion's carriage set off amidst the cheers of the Navy soldiers. This journey will definitely not be peaceful. The Marquis Champion naturally knew why the Autarch Qian was in such a hurry to send him back. Staying in the Navy camp, even if someone wanted to steal the treasure, they would not dare to rashly attack the camp. After all, the hundreds of thousands of Navy soldiers were no joke. Now that the Marquis Champion had left the camp with a group of personal guards, those who wanted to steal the treasure had been waiting for a long time. Ong Yi, I heard that the Marquis Champion obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. Should we go and steal it? In a tranquil sea camp, Chan Insha had the idea of killing someone to steal the treasure. Insha, we also obtained Emperor Yu's supreme treasure. The past and present scriptures. Aren't they the supreme treasures bestowed by Emperor Yu? Hong Yi chuckles and pulls Chan Insha to his side. When Emperor Yu attained the Tao, he once said that he would leave the supreme treasure to the fated person. Since the Marquis Champion obtained the supreme treasure, then he is the fated person. He has his own fate, we have our own fate. Why should we force it? Didn't you say that a gentleman will constantly strive to improve himself? You actually said that there is no need to force it? Chan Insha rolls her eyes at Hong. He. All right. Let's speak the truth. The Marquis Champion, we can't beat him. Martial Dao, human immortal. The two of us are ghost immortals who have not even passed the lightning tribulation. If we run over, we'll be killed by a call from him. All right. Chan Insha has a deflated look. Put your thoughts on cultivation. Being strong yourself is the foundation. Otherwise, even if you have the supreme treasure, you will not be able to protect it. Hong Yi persuades and then starts to discuss cultivation comprehension with Chan Insha. At this moment, the Marquis Champion's carriage had already been attacked. Marquis Champion, you have killed countless soldiers of the Western Cloud Empire. Today, we have specially come to seek revenge. An angry roar comes from the front. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. One after another, huge crossbow bolts pierced through the air and flew over. A group of figures armed with sabers and spears follow closely behind, roaring angrily as they charge towards the carriage. The people of the Western Cloud Empire are actually speaking the official language of the Great Qian Empire. If you want to find an excuse, you should find a better one. The Marquis Champion sighs speechlessly. Sitting on the carriage, he gently waves his hand. A strong gust of wind whizzes, sweeping the incoming crossbow bolts away. Puff, puff, puff. The crossbow bolts that were sent flying away knocked down the charging figures. A motley crew. The Marquis Champion waves his hand disdainfully. Take them down. Rumble. His personal cavalry charge out. Long spears, large halberds, fast horses, and strong bows. These personal guards who have followed the Marquis Champion all the way here are all full of vitality and extraordinary skills. In a short moment, this motley crew was completely wiped out. Such people dare to come and snatch my treasure? It's really baffling. The Marquis Champion curls his lips in disdain. If they can't do it, then what about me? The sky shook fiercely, and a mighty aura covered the sky and covered the earth. Imperial dominance. Fist of destruction. There is a loud roar in the sky, and a huge fist smashes down. When this fist is thrown out, the space in the direction of the fist seems to have caved in, and a huge gust of wind comes crashing down like a huge mountain. Fist of destruction? Remnants of the previous dynasty? The Marquis Champion raises his head slightly, and a cold smile appears at the corner of his mouth. Chapter 239. A young man in his 20s was floating in the air. This person was dressed in a yellow robe with a beautiful dragon embroidered on it. He had a noble aura, like the crown prince of a country. In fact, he was indeed the crown prince of the previous dynasty. Crown Prince Zhou, a stray dog like you dares to have designs on me? You're courting death. The Marquis Champion roared, and the divine spear of death appeared in his hand. He straightened his body and stood up from the carriage. As he stood up, the blood and qi around the Marquis Champion surged. The mighty blood and qi was like a straight smoke signal that shot into the sky. Under the vibration of the aura, the Marquis Champion seemed to be indomitable. Blood-dripping sky, the long spear in his hand shook and whistled as it broke through the air. Endless blood and iron-killing intent exploded on the spear blade. The entire spear blade bloomed with a blood-red light. Boom! The blood-draining spear met the huge fist that was coming down on his head. The majestic, vital energy and blood, as well as the violent martial will, shattered this huge fist. Puff! The spear light was like lightning breaking through the air. Crown Prince Zhou, who had only undergone 2 lightning tribulations, was pierced through by the Marquis Champion's spear before he could react. You dare to kill others and steal their treasures with such little cultivation? You're overestimating yourself. The pitch-black Taodai rose into the air and swallowed Crown Prince Zhou, who was on the spear. "Stop! Ah, youngin, you're courting death." There was a loud rumble in the sky. A black cloud with a radius of 100 miles broke through the air. Monstrous killing intent, endless brutality, ferocity, and a hell-like aura spread out and shook the world. Amidst the dark clouds, which resembled the demonic realm of the 9 underworlds, stood a huge throne. This throne was no different from the dragon throne in the Great Qian Imperial Palace. It was golden and dazzling, with 9 dragons coiling around it. There was also a huge dragon head on each side of the armrests. This is the great ancestor of the Zhou dynasty, the Avici throne. The Marquis champion frowned slightly, and the blood-red vertical eye between his brows suddenly opened. Endless blood-red light flowed, and a horny armor covered with ferocious spikes appeared on his body. Legend has it that the founding ancestor of the Zhou dynasty massacred the world. Mountains of corpses, seas of blood, and piles of bones were used to gather the murderous aura of the world and smelt the strange metal from beyond the heavens to create the Avici throne. Is this the one? In the blink of an eye, the huge black cloud was right in front of them. On the enormous Avici throne sat an unparalleled tyrant who was wearing a dragon robe and a flat crown. Bloody aura was surging out of his body. Dark clouds rolled around the throne. Various strange phenomena appeared in the churning black clouds. From time to time, they would condense into armored guards holding swords. From time to time, they would transform into scenes of 2 armies fighting each other. From time to time, they would transform into mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Within the thick black clouds within a radius of 50 kilometers, there were millions of war spirits fighting endlessly. The sky was filled with mountains of corpses and seas of blood. Layers upon layers, layers upon layers, patches upon patches, it was endless. The entire sky turned into a scene of Azura purgatory, a scene of endless slaughter. When this phenomenon appeared, the Marquis champion was shocked, and his expression became serious. Extreme king domination. Fist of destruction. When the same move was used by Zhou Taizu, it was a world of difference compared to Crown Prince Zhou. Boom! With this punch, there was an earth-shattering explosion in the void. Heaven and earth shook. Heaven and earth were really shaking. Under this punch, the entire space was trembling. The void shattered, and the wind and clouds surged. The Marquis champion only felt the top of his head darken. The incomparably huge fist covered the sky and smashed down as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. This strength is actually not much weaker than that old thief Yongpan. The Marquis champion took a deep breath, and a monstrous blood aura erupted violently. Thunderous explosions came from the acupoints all over his body, and endless blood aura ran through his body. In his divine soul, the war god demon statue appeared once again. The will of conquest, plunder, and possession ran through his body and divine soul. Darkness is my armor, and the bloody aura is my spear. My path is to conquer, plunder, and possess. At this moment, the Marquis champion used his strongest strength, and his divine soul and body merged into one. The divine soul cultivation of 4 lightning tribulations and the physical strength of a human immortal of the martial Tao merged into one, and an unparalleled power erupted. Avici, hell! The spear in his hand soared into the sky like a blood-colored dragon, and blood aura filled the sky. Conquest, plunder, possession. With this spear, the Marquis champion had already surpassed the mold of the war god, Shang. From the Avici killing path to the Avici hell, it had truly become his own martial will. In this spear, the Marquis champion actually brought out the aura of fist will materialization. Beginner human immortal, intermediate human immortal, and advanced human immortal. These 3 stages were all the enlightenment stages. When all the acupoints in the body were fully opened, chi would flow through the body, and the martial will would condense. Only then would there be the possibility of advancing to fist will materialization. The Marquis Champion's realm was still far away. However, Liyu's soul-body fusion experiment allowed the Marquis Champion to erupt with a trace of fist-will materialization in advance. Boom! A huge fist descended from the sky and collided with the blood-colored dragon-like spear energy, and an earth-shattering sound erupted. The surging wind tore the surrounding void, and the destructive power that seemed to destroy the void exploded. Within a radius of 1 mile, all living things on the ground were ground into dust. The Marquis Champion's carriage, troops, and horses were all turned into flying ashes. Not even dregs were left. On the Avicii throne, the great ancestor of the state of Zhou let out a heart-wrenching scream. The spear blasted out, and the blood-colored dragon fiercely blasted into the black clouds that filled the sky. The violent wind and the monstrous blood aura violently exploded, and a huge hole was blasted open in the black clouds that covered half the sky. The blood aura of the human immortal of the martial Tao exploded like sulfuric acid, melting gold and iron. The great ancestor of the state of Zhou was blasted by this explosion of blood aura, and more than 36,000 thoughts were instantly destroyed. 1/3 of his divine soul was destroyed, and the intense pain caused the great ancestor of the state of Zhou to let out a shrill scream. "I'll take your life while you're sick." How could the Marquis Champion be courteous with him? His figure flashed, and a clear light burst out. In a flash, the Marquis Champion rushed to the side of the great ancestor of the state of Zhou. Human immortal of the martial Tao, blood aura was Yang. The Marquis Champion stretched out his hands and firmly held onto the great ancestor of the state of Zhou and heavily pressed him onto the golden throne. Ayo, the image of a huge Tao Tai appeared, and like a black hole, it opened its huge mouth and swallowed in one gulp. The great ancestor of the state of Zhou, who was once a supreme being of 6 lightning tribulations, who once dominated the world, was swallowed in one gulp. Even the great ancestor of the state of Zhou was destroyed. So how could the Avicii throne be let go? The Tao Ye's huge mouth appeared once again, and like a dragon sucking in water, an endless suction force was produced. Together with the throne and the black clouds, they were all sucked into the Tao Ye's stomach. Who else? Who else wants to seize this Marquis treasure? Who else? The Marquis Champion stood in the air, looking down on the world, and looking down on all directions. Monstrous, ferocious power, peerlessly domineering, made everyone who was watching this battle feel depressed. The surroundings were silent, and no one dared to answer. Outside of the number 1 person in the world, the dream god base of the state of Zhou, with 7 lightning tribulations, 6 lightning tribulations were already peerless overlords. A 6th tribulation overlord like the great ancestor of the state of Zhou died in the hands of the Marquis Champion, and so cleanly that not even a speck of dust was left. This battle shook the world. This battle established the Marquis Champion's peerless reputation of dominating the world. With the Marquis Champion being so tyrannical, anyone who wanted to take the Emperor of Yu's treasure would have to carefully consider their own weight. Chapter 240. The Champion Marquis is trying to defy the heavens. Liu looked at the scene provided by Tao Tai. He saw that the Champion Marquis, soul and body as one, erupting with absolute power and defeating the 6 lightning tribulations Zhou Taizu. He couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Glancing at the new items in the resource warehouse, Liu smiled. The harvest is not bad. It seems that the Champion Marquis is still very suitable for plundering resources. Since it was handed over, he naturally had to deal with it. First, he let the system pay the Champion Marquis according to the ratio. After sending the Champion Marquis away, Liu calmed down and looked at the harvest this time. The 2 lightning tribulations Crown Prince Zhou was completely ignored. Liu directly let the system break it down and turn it into energy. Then, he focused on Zhou Taizu. 300 years ago, the founder of the great Zhou Empire, a peerless villain who ran rampant in the world, still had some ability. Liu smiled. and issued an order to the system. System, extract Zhou Taizu's memory and enter the information into the resource warehouse. After instructing, Liu looked at the Avicii throne. This thing is eerie. If I don't purify it, I can't take it out to see people. Ignoring the Avicii throne, Liu's mind focused on the information extracted from Zhou Taizu's memory. Zhou Taizu's cultivation method is also very extraordinary. The Great Destruction scripture can cultivate the Great Destruction God King's refined copper body. There is also the Imperial Reversal technique, which can simulate the phenomenon of time reversal. It is also somewhat useful. Liu nodded, planning to take a look at these two cultivation methods when he had time in the future. Zhou Taizu's lair in the void actually has a refined copper meteorite with a diameter of several kilometers. And Sky City? Haha, not bad, not bad. The Emperor used the copper of the first mountain to forge a sword. The image of the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, grass, and trees was engraved. The book was about agriculture and livestock and the unification of the four seas. It was for the Xinyuan sword. The so-called first mountain copper was refined copper meteorite. Of course, it was hard to say whether the refined copper meteorite used by the great Emperor Xinyuan was the same as the refined copper meteorite now. But now this refined copper meteorite was also a top-grade crafted material in this world, especially Sky City. Sky City was also an item with a very long history. There was such a record in the future masters to forge to create Sky City of Heaven, 9 in water, 9 clouds, and this is to create, had to, and it was with it. The Boat of Destiny was one of the most powerful divine weapons in this world. Its boundless power suppressed the greater worlds. The city in the sky was able to fight against the Boat of Destiny. Although it was destroyed, it was still extraordinary. If it wasn't a supreme treasure of similar level, then it wouldn't be a matter of destroying it, but of crushing it directly. That was very extraordinary. Seems like it can be used as a material for the merchant city. Liu's eyes lit up. He was very interested in the refined copper meteorite in Sky City. I won't let the champion marquis go this time. Liu smiled and set his sights on the monkey. Monkey, this be Asterisk starred. After creating Flower Fruit Mountain, he's so bored that he's looking for a female monkey. Liu shook his head. He retrieved the address of Zhou Taizu's lair and sent it to the monkey through the somersault cloud. Whoa, make a trip here. Take the refined copper meteorite in Sky City. Yes, over at Flower Fruit Mountain, the monkey replied and somersaulted out. He rode the somersault cloud and charged into the void. Not long after, the monkey rode the somersault cloud and landed in the valley of West Mountain. Greetings, Supremacy. The monkey knelt in front of Liu. I've retrieved the refined copper meteorite in Sky City. Of course, Liu knew that the monkey had completed the mission. The small resource bank opened in the somersault cloud was originally a branch of the system's resource bank. It was also under Liu's control. Not bad. Liu nodded and motioned for the monkey to get up. The materials for the city's stronghold were already prepared. All that was left was to set up the location of the stronghold. The stronghold of the city must ensure a long-term and stable existence. It must be built in a place with guarding power. Therefore, the West Mountain Valley and the monkey's Flower Fruit Mountain are both not bad. During this period of time, after receiving the nine-tailed celestial fox, Dao, imparted by Liu, the old fox Tu Yuan radiated youth and was full of enthusiasm. He ran around the West Mountain every day, constantly gathering foxes. Now, in the entire West Mountain Valley, there were already thousands of big and small foxes. Although most of them had not yet broken away from the characteristics of wild beasts. Even if Tu Yuan imparted all kinds of knowledge to the big and small foxes with the power of the soul every day, only a small number of foxes had awakened spiritual intelligence. But if this momentum continued to develop, the fox nest in the West Mountain Valley would definitely become a powerful force. The strength of the West Mountain Valley is still a little weak. Within a few years, it's impossible to have someone who can hold their own. Forget it. It's better to leave it at Flower Fruit Mountain. Li would not stay in this world for too long. At most, after Ez attained the Tao, he would definitely leave. In these few years, the fox's strength would not be enough to hold their own. At Flower Fruit Mountain, with a monkey guarding it, it would be safer. Monkey, I'll go take a look at your Flower Fruit Mountain. Liu looked at the monkey and smiled. It's my honor to be on a visit, Supremacy. The monkey laughed happily. Let's go. Liu smiled and waved his hand. With a flick of his sleeves, he took the monkey and strode out, arriving at the foot of Flower Fruit Mountain in an instant. This was a tall mountain in the middle of the sea. Surrounded by the vast sea, a majestic mountain rushed out of the sea, towering into the clouds. After the monkey killed old Demon Ba, the fog that had shrouded this place all year round dissipated. The Earth Fiend poison gas was also completely vented in that battle. The entire Flower Fruit Mountain was very different now. The forest in the mountain was lush, with waterfalls and springs. There were strange peaks and jagged rocks. It was actually an exceptionally beautiful place. It's really a good place. Liu smiled at the monkey and nodded approvingly. It's all thanks to the Supremacy's blessings. The monkey chuckled with a smug look in its eyes. A moment later, Liu and Monkey arrived at the entrance of Water Curtain Cave. There's not a single drop of water here, and you call it Water Curtain Cave? After hearing the monkey's introduction, Liu looked at the cave and was speechless. This monkey had really created Water Curtain Cave of Flower Fruit Mountain. Foo-foo. I heard the Supremacy mention this name before and felt that it was very nice, so I used it. The monkey smiled foolishly. All right. Since you called this place Water Curtain Cave, I'll help you and let it live up to its name. A stream of heaven and earth chi appeared in his hands, and he waved it into the ground. The entire Flower Fruit Mountain shook with a boom, causing the monkeys in the mountain to cry and run out. The Supremacy has cast a spell to change the world. There's no need to panic. The monkey was worried that these subordinates would disturb Liu and hurriedly roared, calming these monkeys down. Liu naturally wouldn't be calculative with these monkeys. He used the heaven and earth chi to change the terrain, stirring up the underground water veins and forming a waterfall above the Water Curtain Cave. A pool and a river channel were formed at the entrance of Water Curtain Cave. The modifications were considered complete. Looking at the Water Curtain Cave, Liu felt that it was really inconvenient to be drenched by the waterfall every time he entered and exited. He waved his hand again, and a few stone bridges were formed over the pool and river channel, bypassing the waterfall and leading to the cave entrance. All right, your Water Curtain Cave is finally worthy of its name. Liu kept the heaven and earth chi and smiled at the monkey. Thank you, Supremacy. The monkey hurriedly thanked Liu. He was very clear about Liu's abilities. No matter what earth-shattering things Liu did, it was very normal in the monkey's heart. Naturally, there was nothing to be surprised about. However, it was different for the monkeys under his command. Seeing Liu's move, the monkeys all over the mountain were so frightened that they knelt on the ground. Those monkeys who knew how to cultivate were even more frightened. To be able to change the world with such a divine ability, what kind of heaven-defying strength was this? When Liu saw this situation, he felt very annoyed in his heart. Damn, I actually acted cool in front of a bunch of monkeys. Chapter 2:41. Let's go. Liu felt uneasy being looked at with reverence and fear by the group of monkeys. He hurriedly brought the monkeys and hurriedly walked into the Water Curtain Cave. There was a huge space in front of them. Huge whale oil torches lit up the entire cave. In front of him was a resplendent palace. It had heavy eaves and arches, richly ornamented beams and painted rafters, towering walls, and a magnificent gatehouse. There were even 3 moats surrounding it. Such a scene was simply like an imperial palace. Not bad. Old Demon Ba left behind something for you to take advantage of. Liu smiled at Monkey and said, Woo, I'm going to remodel your palace. This will still be your palace in the future, but it's also very important to me. You have to protect it and not let it be damaged. Yes, I promise that I won't let anyone touch it. Monkey nodded solemnly. Liu nodded and waved at the palace in front of him. He gave his system a command in his mind. System, use this palace as a model. Use the red refined copper and Sky City's wreckage as the materials to build a shopping center. There was a slight vibration and endless five-colored light shrouded the palace in front of them. In the resource warehouse, the huge red copper meteorite and the huge Sky City wreckage melted in an instant. Golden molten metal rose up like a fountain and rushed into the five-colored light. Amidst the endless rays of light, a huge purple-gold metal palace rose up at an extremely fast speed. Its brilliant splendor was like that of a heavenly palace. The light faded, and a brand new palace appeared in front of them. It was magnificent and majestic. A huge aura shook heaven and earth. It made one's heart tremble. My lord is indeed powerful. Monkey opened his mouth wide and felt his throat dry. Even though he had expected Liu to be so powerful, he did not expect him to create such an amazing divine item with a wave of his hand. Yes, this palace was already a divine item. The power contained in this palace seemed to be even stronger than his coiled dragon cudgel. Monkey's feeling was not wrong. In fact, this palace was a treasure similar to Sky City. In the process of building this shopping center, Liu directly added the power of Sky City into it. It was equivalent to using red refined copper to repair Sky City and then changing its form into this palace. For this, Liu used a huge amount of energy and used the Great Zhou dynasty's founding ancestor as a source of energy. Congratulations to the user for completing the construction of the second shopping center. Please set the authority of the shopping center and set the function of the shopping center. The system prompt came quickly. Liu, who was already prepared, was not surprised. I must be the highest authority. Give Monkey Wu secondary authority. He gave the old fox 2 yuan and the 3 little foxes permission to use it. Ape and Fox, and Ape Race and Fox Race. That was all for now. In the future, if the monkey and the fox could develop their own forces. Wu, S's, SSSSS. Authority input complete. Please set the function of the shopping center. The shopping center's basic function was to be the shopping center's anchor point in this world. It had the function of connecting to the shopping center. As for the other functions, they could be set according to Liu's wishes. First, add a resource warehouse to the shopping center to facilitate the flow of resources between the two worlds. Also, open a virtual illusion realm. There is no need for the other functions. When the time comes, you can add any functions you want. If he wanted Monkey to guard this place, he had to give him something to do. Let him fight with people in the virtual illusion realm. Liu smiled and nodded. He waved his hand at Monkey. Wu, you must protect this place. Do you understand? Yes. Lord, don't worry. Disciple swears to protect this place. Monkey nodded seriously. Currently, you are an advanced human immortal at the peak of the awakened realm. But not long later, this world's heaven-earth essence chi will increase rapidly. The strength of cultivators will also increase rapidly. Liu looked at Monkey sternly and exhorted, you must not slack off. You must know that your name is only half complete. There is still a Kong, who is only one step away from shattering the vacuum waiting for you. Yes, disciple will definitely not disappoint Lord. Monkey patted his chest heavily and replied loudly. Very good. Liu nodded and pointed at the palace. I have set up a virtual battlefield here. When you are free, come in and train more. The sacred battle ape is named after battle. If you don't fight, how can you improve? Disciple understands. Monkey looked at the palace, and his eyes were filled with eagerness. It had been a few months since he came to Huaguo Mountain. He had only fought once when he first arrived. Monkey felt that his bones were itching. If Liu had not asked him to come here, he would have left long ago. Now that he heard that there was a virtual battlefield, it was to Monkey's taste. All right, I will leave this place to you. I am leaving. After the construction of a shopping mall stronghold was completed, Liu realized that the shopping mall space was already connected to the shopping mall stronghold. Since the matter was settled, there was no need for him to stay here. Farewell, Lord. Monkey bowed to Liu. That's enough. Liu waved his hand and took a step forward. His figure instantly disappeared. When he returned to the West Mountain Valley, Liu shook his head again when he saw all kinds of foxes scurrying around. It is boring to stay here all the time. Let's go out for a walk. Liu remembered that he had already created the true nirvana technique for birds in the demon race's cultivation method. Until now, he had not found a suitable candidate to experiment with. Thus, he had the idea of going out for a walk. Little Ting Ting, big brother is going out to play. Are you coming? He shouted into the attic. There was a burst of cheers in the attic. Little Ting Ting brought the 3 little foxes out of the room and jumped down from the balcony on the 2nd floor. Sigh. Liu was shocked. He quickly rushed over and caught Little Ting Ting. After catching her, Liu remembered that with Little Ting Ting's current strength, jumping down from the 2nd floor was as easy as jumping down a flight of stairs. I forgot that Little Ting Ting has opened up the sea of bitterness. She is no longer an ordinary person. Liu laughed and put Little Ting Ting on his shoulder. He waved his sleeve and rolled up the 3 little foxes. He took a step forward and rushed into the air. Little Ting Ting, let's go see the desert and the grassland. How about it? Yes, that's great. Their figures flashed, and the 2 people and 3 beasts disappeared in an instant. Chapter 242. I still need to find a means of transportation. Since he was out to play, of course he couldn't use void travel. Otherwise, he would arrive with a swish and return with a swish. There wouldn't be any scenery along the way, which would be boring. Standing in the air, Liu glanced at the resource warehouse and then smiled bitterly. So until now, I still have to walk when I travel. It was difficult to find a good carriage for a while, so he could only find something to deal with the emergency. The Avicii throne can transform into 100 miles of black clouds. This thing is monstrous evil. It's not bad to purify it for emergencies. Thinking of this, Liu's heart stirred. System, purify the Avicii throne, remove the evil aura, and turn the black clouds into white clouds. Then change the throne into a platform with a railing. The Avicii throne's body was the dragon throne, and the 100 miles of black clouds it emitted were all formed by the evil aura. If the throne was changed into a platform, Little Ting Ting and the little foxes could stay on it. Ting Ting, let's ride the cloud over. Liu waved his hand and released the newly modified cloud platform. He stepped on the cloud platform and put Little Ting Ting and the 3 little foxes down. Wow, it's so beautiful. Wow, is it a river? Wow, the house has become so small. Little Ting Ting landed on the cloud platform and ran to the side with the 3 little foxes. She held the railing and looked down, shouting nonstop. The cloud platform transformed from the Avicii throne was not big. The platform transformed from the throne was only 100 square meters, surrounded by rolling white clouds. At this moment, Liu restrained the white clouds a little, making it easier for Little Ting Ting and the others to see the scenery outside. In order to prevent Little Ting Ting or the little foxes from falling, Liu also added a transparent light screen on the cloud platform. It could block the wind and also ensure safety. It was very suitable. Liu smiled, exchanged a few chairs from the system's resource warehouse, and placed a coffee table. He picked up a pot of tea and lay on the chair, leisurely watching Little Ting Ting and the others make a fuss. The cloud platform floated across the sky. The magnificent rivers and mountains of the great Qiantianzhou were all in sight. Time flew by amidst the drifting white clouds. 7 days later, Liu, who was so bored that he was about to doze off, was woken up by a loud sound. Screech! In the distant horizon, a shrill and resounding cry of a crane rang out. A majestic white crane stretched out its neck and cried out. It flapped its wings and flew over at an extremely fast speed. Bastard, you still dare to run? Behind the white crane, an old Taoist priest with a dark complexion and wearing a green feather robe and a Taoist crown on his head and a horsetail whisk in his hand cursed angrily and chased after the white crane in a flash of light. Screech! The white crane let out a long cry and flapped its wings with all its might, wanting to speed up and escape. However, it realized that the black-faced Taoist was getting closer and closer and was about to be caught. The white crane seemed to know that it was hopeless to escape. It turned around and charged towards the old Taoist. Its long beak was like a sharp sword as it stabbed towards the black-faced old Taoist. "Bastard, you still dare to resist?" The black-faced old Taoist waved the horsetail whisk in his hand fiercely. Thousands of silver threads burst out with dazzling light and ruthlessly whipped the white crane. Feathers fluttered and blood splattered everywhere. Screech! The white crane screamed miserably as it spun and flew out, blood splattering all the way. Brother, that white crane is so pitiful." Little Tingting's eyes were filled with sympathy. She looked at Li Yu eagerly, as if she wanted Li Yu to help. Yes, it's so pitiful." The three little foxes also tried their best to chime in. "Ha ha, you little rascals." Li Yu glared at the little rascals and said with a smile, "You don't even know what's going on and you want to meddle in other people's business? Do you know if that white crane is good or bad? What if that white crane is a bad guy? Do you want to help it?" "Huh?" Little Ting and the three little foxes looked at each other, as if they had never thought of this question. That's why, no matter what you encounter, you must first understand the ins and outs of the matter. Do you understand? Li Yu began to preach. Yes. Little Ting and the little foxes nodded in unison. Then, "Brother, that old man is so ugly. He must be a bad guy. That white crane is so beautiful and handsome. It must be a good person. Brother, help it." Li Yu touched his forehead, speechless. "All right, beauty is justice. Long live acting cute. Looks are supreme. I don't need to do anything. Someone is here to help." Li Yu glanced at the horizon and a faint smile appeared on his face. "Stop!" A stream of light swept across the sky, whistling as it rushed over. In an instant, the stream of light arrived. A woman's figure appeared from the stream of light and blocked the black-faced old Taoist, protecting the white crane behind him. That woman wore a pure white crane cloak. She was beautiful and her features were picturesque. She exuded an otherworldly aura from head to toe. She had ascended to become an immortal and was untainted by the mortal world. She was like a crane standing alone at the peak of a mountain. The clouds did not stop and the wind did not blow her away. Siapiampian. When the black-faced old Taoist saw that woman appear, his expression turned extremely terrible as he harumphed heavily. "Siapiampian, this is a family matter of the Grand High Path. Do you dare to interfere? Xianshun, my Jiugao clan has been taught by the Grand High Path and has been close to your Grand High Path since the primordial era. However, the Grand High Path has become arrogant day by day and treats my Jiugao clan like livestock. They order us around and abuse us wantonly." Siapiampian frowned and glared fiercely at the black-faced old Taoist. She pointed at the white crane that was dripping with blood beside her with a face full of hatred. "Now you guys have gone from bad to worse. You want to use my clan's feathers to refine feather clothes and my blood to concoct cinnabar. How can my Jiugao clan be slaughtered by you? Haha, what a joke. Jiugao clan? Even your ancestor, Jiugao, was only my grandmaster's spirit pet. If you're not livestock, what are you?" Old Taoist Xianxin sneered at Siapiampian and sneered. "Since you were lucky enough to cultivate as a ghost immortal, reincarnate into the Xie family, and even become the princess consort of the mighty god king, Yang Ta, you should cherish it. Then you should know how to cherish it. Are the matters of my most high path something you can meddle in?" No. Siapiampian was enraged and drew the long sword at her waist with a clang. "You still dare to attack? I'll teach you a good lesson." Old Taoist Xianxin harumphed coldly and raised the horsetail whisk in his hand. "Hey, you guys are blocking our way. Get out of the way." Siapiampian and Xianxin were about to fight when they suddenly heard a little girl's childish voice nearby. Someone had come nearby, and they hadn't even noticed. The two of them were shocked and hurriedly turned to look. They saw a white cloud floating over. On top of the white cloud was a cloud platform. A 5 to 6-year-old girl was holding onto the railing with 3 little foxes. She pointed at old Taoist Xianxin and whispered. In the center of the cloud platform was a 16 or 17-year-old youth. He was lying on a tan chair and dozing off with his eyes closed. So, the cloud platform has concealed its aura. Which family are you? There are spirit foxes with such vigorous blood chi and powerful souls? That's right. I happen to be lacking materials to refine talisman brushes. These 3 spirit foxes are just right. Old Taoist Xianxian suddenly realized the strangeness of the 3 little foxes, and his eyes lit up. Kid, I've taken a liking to these 3 spirit foxes. I'm an elder of the Grand High Path. Quickly hand over the spirit foxes, and I'll give you a chance. Scram! Liu opened his eyes and raised his brows. He waved his sleeve at old Taoist Xianxian. A massive gust of wind swept up like a hurricane and swept old Taoist Xianxian up. He whizzed out and disappeared into the horizon, traveling thousands of miles. A casual wave of his sleeve was enough to beat the powerful elder of the Grand High Path so badly that he could not even see his shadow. Xiapiampian was dumbfounded. Chapter 243. Thank you for your help, sir. Xiapiampian came back to her senses and cupped her fists at Liu. You're welcome. You're welcome. Sister, quickly bring the white crane up here. It's injured so pitiful. Without waiting for Liu to reply, little Tingting interrupted and extended an invitation to Xiapiampian. Liu smiled nonchalantly. He would let little Tingting make the decision for such a small matter. If that's the case, I'll accept your invitation. Xiapiampian turned her head to look at the severely injured white crane. She pondered for a moment and agreed. As soon as the white crane stepped onto the cloud platform, little Tingting and the 3 little foxes immediately surrounded it. It's bleeding. Yes, a lot of feathers have fallen off. Little white crane, does it hurt? Little Tingting and the 3 little foxes surrounded the white crane and started talking at once. Little girl, don't worry. I'll apply medicine and bandage it later. It'll recover in a few days. Xiapiampian was very happy to see little Tingting so concerned about the white crane and quickly comforted her. However, when she saw the 3 little foxes talking, a strange look flashed across her eyes. She had never heard a spirit fox with such vigorous chi, blood, and soul. In this world, there were only a few divine beasts that were born with supernatural powers. Even if the other beasts were successful in their cultivation, they would only have powerful souls. Their bodies would still be that of ordinary beasts. The 3 foxes in front of her really subverted Xiapiampian's understanding. This made her even more curious about Liu's background. It'll take a few more days to recover, then want to be in pain for many more days? It's so pitiful. Little Tingting touched the white crane's neck, her face full of sympathy. As if suddenly thinking of something, little Tingting quickly turned to Liu and said anxiously, Brother, quickly heal it. It's so pitiful. All right. I really don't know what to do with you. Liu chuckled and waved at the white crane. A brilliant light landed on the white crane's body. Boundless life force sprouted, and the white crane's injuries healed rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it was back to normal. This is holy light technique? Xiapiampian was startled. She glanced at Liu, and a hint of hostility rose in her heart. The most famous way to heal external injuries was the Essence Yuan Temple's holy light spell. The light just now was very similar to the holy light spell of the Essence Temple. Did this person come from the Essence Temple of the Western region? The God Might King led the army to the northwest of Great Qian Dynasty and fought against the Essence Divine Temple. To Xiapiampian, the people of the Essence Yuan Temple were naturally her enemies. Don't be nervous. Liu noticed that something was wrong with Xiapiampian's expression. Only then did he remember that the technique he had just used was the Holy Light technique that the system had re-summarized after analyzing the Essence Origin Bible. Although there were some differences, it was still the principle of the Holy Light technique. It was inevitable that Xiapiampian would misunderstand. My technique did borrow the principle of the Holy Light technique. The Essence Yuan Temple's soul-body complementation technique also has some merits. I just borrowed it for a while. Liu smiled and explained to Xie. I was overthinking. I'm sorry. Xie also understood that she was too sensitive. Liu obviously looked like a person from Great Qin Dynasty. He did not resemble the people of the Essence Yuan Temple at all. How could he be from the Essence Yuan Temple? How could a person from the Great Qin Dynasty join an evil sect? People from Great Qin Dynasty could not accept a sect that did not respect the heavens and earth and could not even worship their ancestors. They could only worship the Essence Qi God. Shriek! At this moment, the recovered white crane was playing with little Ting and the three little foxes. The white crane let out a long cry happily and spread its wings, dancing lightly. The crane danced gracefully in the air. It stretched its neck and looked elegant. Good, good. Another one, another one. Little Ting clapped her hands and jumped around, as though she had found a new playmate. The three little foxes were also jumping around at the side. Foo-foo, little fellow, you're having a good time. Liu smiled and nodded. Little crane has suffered a lot. Now that it has escaped from the sea of suffering, it forgot its place for a moment. Sorry for making a fool of itself. Xie was happy for the white crane as well. However, she sighed when she thought of her fellow clansmen who were still suffering in the Grand High Path. It's fine. Liu smiled and looked at Xie, asking, was that Dao Master from the Grand High Path? From your conversation, it seems like you guys have some conflicts with the Grand High Path. That's indeed the case. Our ancestor, the Jiugao clan, was a white crane beside the ancestral master of the Grand High Path. Our ancestor was successful in his cultivation and called himself Jiugao. That's the origin of our Jiugao clan. At this point, Xie expression turned bitter. In the beginning, the Jiugao clan got along well with the Grand High Path. After a long time, the people of the Most High Path began to treat our race as livestock. They took what they wanted and slaughtered us as they pleased. Xie smiled wryly as she pointed at the dancing white crane. Little crane has escaped. However, there are still tens of thousands of clansmen suffering in the Grand High Mountains. The Grand High Path is powerful, and the Dream God Base is the only one in the world. Who knows when my clansmen will be able to escape this sea of suffering? So that's how it is. Liu nodded and was about to say something to Xie when he suddenly frowned. He looked up at the horizon and chuckled. Someone's here to seek revenge? Roar! A resounding dragon's roar came from the horizon. Raging flames surged into the sky as a gigantic fire dragon 300 meters long whistled through the air. 9 Flame Dragon! Xie cried out in alarm, her face a bit pale. The 9 Flame Dragon was created after the Dream God Base became a creator with 7 lightning tribulations. It extracted the 9 flames of heaven and earth from the void and used the power of a creator to create it. It was a life form that existed between reality and illusion. The 9 Flame Dragon possessed immense strength, yet it existed between reality and illusion. Even if it was killed, it could be reborn from the void. It was practically undying and indestructible. The 9 Flame Dragon was extremely difficult to deal with. More importantly, it was the symbol of the Dream God Base. If the 9 Flame Dragon was here, did that mean the Dream God Base was also here? Xie heart chilled as she recalled the Dream God Base's peerless strength. Only the indomitable will in her bones kept her head high and her hand firmly on the hilt of her sword. Xie turned her head to look at the little ones who were still laughing and playing. She then looked at Liu, who seemed to be confused about the situation and was still acting as if nothing had happened. Xie sighed inwardly and gritted her teeth. These people are all kind-hearted and good people. They have nothing to do with this matter. No matter what, even if I have to fight to the death, I must make sure they escape. Even though she saw Liu send Xianchen flying, in Xie eyes, no matter how strong Liu was, there was no way he could defeat the Dream God Base. Clang! Xie unsheathed her sword and raised it to meet the 9 fire dragons that were flying through the air. Why are you unsheathing your sword? Liu glanced at Xie in surprise. It's just a little fire dragon. The dream god base isn't here yet. So why are you so nervous? Even if the dream god base is here, he wouldn't dare to act so presumptuously in front of me. Siepiampian was taken aback as she stared at Liu with wide eyes. Even the dream god base wouldn't dare to act presumptuously in front of you? There was such a character in this world. Chapter 244. Roar. The 9 fiery dragon arrived in front of them in an instant. It hovered in the air and let out a long roar. The roar of the dragon caused the wind and clouds to stir. It exuded an ancient vicissitude and violent aura. This is the 9 fire dragon? Liu glanced at the gigantic dragon in the sky, and a smile appeared on his face. Aya, little Ting Ting, who was playing around, suddenly screamed. After the 9 fiery dragon appeared, the dancing white crane was so scared that it fell to the ground and trembled. Little Ting Ting was not going to let it go. You're so noisy. You scared the little white crane. Why are you screaming so loudly? Shut the hell up. Little Ting Ting put her hands on her hips and pointed at the 9 flame dragon as she scolded him. You're asking for it. The 9 fire flame dragon's huge dragon eyes glared fiercely. It waved its flaming dragon claws and slapped down at little Ting Ting. You're the one asking for it. Daring to make a move on Xiao Ting Ting was truly courting death. Liu snorted and slapped him with the back of his hand. Great void handprint, great vacuum handprint, Tathagata's seal, 9 mountain moving seals. Liu had mastered quite a number of handprint techniques. With the Battle Saint technique as the foundation, he could use one technique to simulate all techniques. After countless battles in the illusory realm and being tortured by the young great emperors countless times, Liu had already mastered all of his combat skills. Heaven and earth shook when he slapped out. This was the first time in history that Liu had used his own strength to unleash his strongest attack. The Khanate divine body was the most powerful Tao fetus. The infinite scripture was the most powerful technique. The 129,600 acupoints were fully opened, and the Battle Saint technique was the most powerful combat technique. At this moment, Liu displayed his own powerful strength. Bam! Heaven and earth cracked when he slapped out. Then, the 9 fiery dragon that had been majestic just a moment ago was reduced to ashes. Siepiampian was stunned. Brother, why did you kill it? Catch it for me to play with. Little Ting Ting pouted, dissatisfied with Liu's actions. This. Liu laughed awkwardly. I didn't notice. I used too much strength. The 9 fiery dragon is so famous. I didn't know it was so weak. Don't worry. I killed one. There are 8 more. I'll catch them all next time. Siepiampian didn't know what to say. What kind of people were these people? This was the 9 fiery dragon. This represented the supreme power of the Dream God Base's creator realm. These 9 fire dragons ran amok in the world. Who dared to provoke them? Now, there was actually someone who wanted to capture him and play with him. Wait, 8? Only 8 of the 9 flame dragons remained. Could it be Xie of Siepiampian had one of the 9 fire dragons, the undying and indestructible void creations that could be reborn from the void, been completely annihilated? Dao, Wei. In a palace at the peak of Grand Mountain, a furious roar resounded. Endless flames shot into the sky like a volcanic eruption. Giant fiery dragons roared as they soared into the sky. Who is it? Who dares to kill my 9 fiery dragon? The Dream God Base stood in the air, 8 fiery dragons circling around it. Their raging flames dyed the sky red, and their powerful aura caused the world to tremble. Although he was furious, the Dream God Base was well aware that someone who could kill a creation of the 9 fiery dragon and erase its life imprint was definitely on par with him. Only the creator could fight against the creator. Without the power of a 7 tribulation, it was impossible to kill a 9 fiery dragon. I'm about to undergo my 8th tribulation. Once I undergo my 8th tribulation and become a nascent soul cultivator, I'll settle this score with you, no matter who it is. The Dream God Base snorted, retracted his aura, and returned to the palace. The tribulation was the most important thing right now. He couldn't afford to be distracted by this. Since the culprit also possessed the power of a creator, he couldn't act rashly. Once he passed his 8th tribulation, he could use his absolute power to suppress the culprit. That was the only way to go. But when did such a person appear in this world? Could it be that some old bastard has popped up again? Dream God Base's expression darkened as he looked towards the northwest. The 9 flame dragons' accident happened to the northwest. That direction, if it's not the Essence Temple's Essence Chi God, then it's the profound Heaven Patriarch from the profound Heaven Sacred Land who's still alive. The Dream God Base let out a long sigh and calmed his heart to continue cultivating, preparing for his 8th tribulation. On the cloud platform, Liyu's slapping of the 9 fiery dragon left Xie Pianpian dumbfounded. May I ask for your esteemed name? Suppressing the shock in her heart, Xie Pianpian bowed respectfully to Liyu. Haha, no need for formalities. Liyu smiled and told Xie Pianpian, my name is Liyu. Liyu? Xie Pianpian frowned slightly. She couldn't figure out where this name came from. Big brother. Big brother. At this time, little Tingting walked over to Liyu while holding the white crane's wings. Big brother, this little white crane is so pitiful. It said that many of its clansmen are bullied by those Taoists every day. They are beaten, scolded, plucked feathers, and bled. Those who don't listen will be killed. Big brother, please help them. Hearing Xiao Ting Ting's words, the white crane and white crane hurriedly knelt in front of Liyu. They imitated human behavior and kept kowtowing to Liyu. To be able to kill the 9 fiery dragon, this power is no less than the Dream God Base. As long as he takes action, he can probably save the Jiugao clan. Xie Pianpian's eyes lit up as she bowed towards Liyu. Please help us. Our Jiugao clan will definitely be grateful. Haha, get up. Liyu smiled and stretched out his hand to support them. A gentle force helped by he and Xie Pianpian up. It's better to rely on yourself than others. Liyu looked at Xie Pianpian and said, didn't your ancestor, Jiugao, also receive the favor of the Grand Ancestor back then? Why is your relationship with the Grand Ancestor now like this? The Grand Ancestor is cruel and tyrannical. Xie Pianpian quickly put a label on the Grand Ancestor. Wrong. It's not like this. Liyu shook his head. There's a basic rule in this world. The strong preys on the weak. The only reason why you are here today is because you are too weak. That's all. Too weak. Xie Pianpian didn't know what to say. They were indeed too weak. But what could they do? Big brother, help them become stronger. Just like Tingting pointed at the little fox. Just like Ching Ching and the others. All right. Liyu smiled. With a flick of his finger, he sent the bird demon cultivation technique, Nirvana, true technique, into the white crane and Xie Pianpian's minds. Nirvana, true technique, using the body of a bird to undergo nirvana to become a phoenix. This cultivation technique. Xie Pianpian was so shocked that her face turned pale when she saw this cultivation technique. Is this really possible? Xie Pianpian looked up at Liyu, her face full of doubt as if she couldn't believe it. Why not? Sister, of course there's no problem with the cultivation technique bestowed by His Majesty Emperor Yu. Ching Ching raised her claws proudly, her body erupting with powerful qi and blood. Her qi and blood were masculine, no less than ordinary martial artists. However, Xie Pianpian wasn't paying attention to Ching Ching. Emperor Yu? Xie Pianpian turned to look at Liyu, her face full of shock. You are? Yes. Big brother is the Emperor Yu they're talking about. Tingting reached out and pulled the white crane. Little white crane, if anyone bullies you in the future, tell me. My big brother is so powerful. Was there a need to say it? Emperor Yu, how could he be just powerful? Xie Pianpian's throat was somewhat dry. She only felt that today's encounter was simply like a dream. However, this Nirvana true technique, should she cultivate it or not? This cultivation technique was profound and unfathomable. Cultivating it would definitely bring endless benefits. However, after cultivating it, one would undergo nirvana to become a phoenix and become a phoenix. If everyone cultivated this kind of cultivation technique, would my Jiugao clan still exist in the future? If she didn't cultivate it, the Jiugao clan would forever be poultry reared by the most high path, forever at the mercy of others. At this moment, Siepiampian's heart was in a dilemma. All right, our His Majesty Emperor, you was only here to do experiments. He wasn't really here to save the suffering and be merciful. What has the survival of your clan got to do with me? Chapter 245. Nirvana True Technique. Are you going to practice it or not? Looking at the departing figures of Siepiampian and the white cranes, Liu chuckled and looked forward to the future of these white cranes. Liu just needed to verify his thoughts on this Nirvana True Technique as a practice before creating his own master's path and to provide experience for his own creation of cultivation methods. After using the Nirvana True Technique to send off Siepiampian, Liu's journey continued. Brother, look, is that the desert? Arriving at the northwest boundary, there was an endless desert of yellow sand in front of them. The sun was setting in the west, and the yellow sand desert that stretched for thousands of miles emitted a faint golden glow. What a beautiful scenery! Desolate, empty, vicissitudes vast. This vast desert made little Ting Ting and the little fox, who had never seen a desert before, clap their hands, shout, and jump. What a beautiful desert! Liu smiled and shook his head. If it was from the perspective of appreciating the scenery, it would indeed look very shocking. However, if they lived in a desert, it would be terrible. After the initial excitement, the scene of yellow sand filled little Ting Ting's eyes made her tired. Liu changed direction, and the cloud platform floated towards the northern grassland. The endless grassland, herds of cattle and sheep, and the yurts dotted on the verdant grassland were like wildflowers in the green field. Little Ting Ting cheered for a long time. That's the Marquis Champion? Why did he come here? Liu was lying on the rattan chair and dozing off when he suddenly heard the prompt from Tao Dai. Only then did he discover that the Marquis Champion had also come to the grassland of Western Cloud Empire. During this time, Liu took little Ting Ting on a scenic tour and did not pay attention to the Marquis Champion. Because nothing important happened on the Marquis Champion's side, Tao Dai did not report at all times. It was not until Tao Dai entered the range of 1,000 miles around Liu and automatically connected to the main system that Liu discovered that the Marquis Champion had actually come to the grassland of Western Cloud Empire. With a wave of his hand, he activated the light curtain of the cloud platform and hid it. The light curtain, deduced based on the separation of two realms spell, isolated from the outside world. What is the Champion Marquis doing in the cloud mist grasslands? Liu was a little surprised and quickly opened the system connection. Tao Tai, report the reason why the Champion Marquis came to the Western Cloud Prairie. Tao Tai immediately submitted the answer. It was the Yunming aristocratic families who contacted the Champion Marquis, invite the Marquis of Champion to kill the barely surviving ancestor Xian Tian. Seeing this answer, Liu was both surprised and felt that it was reasonable. The profound Heaven Holy Land was equivalent to the retired emperor of the Western Cloud Empire. Its status was almost the same as the Essence Divine Temple of the Western regions. Its authority was above the emperor's. The strength of the profound Heaven Holy Land was tyrannical. It had the master of the profound Heaven Mansion who had undergone 5 lightning tribulations, the Heavenly Snake King who had undergone 4 lightning tribulations, the Mahakala Heaven and the Destroyer Heaven who were equivalent to 4 lightning tribulations, and the Peacock King as external aid. His position was unshakable. However, during this period of time, these experts had all fallen at the hands of the Marquis of Champion. Right now, the profound Heaven Holy Land was at its weakest. Therefore, some people could no longer sit still. This should be the intention of the Cloud Mist Monarch. If the Champion Marquis can kill the ancestor Xian Tian, everyone will be happy. If the Champion Marquis dies at the hands of the ancestor Xian Tian, we can also eliminate a strong enemy. Liu quickly understood the cause and effect and could not help but laugh. What a good plan. Unfortunately, the champion marquis is not so easy to invite. It's easy to invite a god, but hard to send him away. The Cloud Mist Monarch had no choice. Otherwise, why would he hook up with the champion marquis? There was a great risk in having ideas about the profound Heaven Holy Land because the ancestor Xian Tian might still be alive in the profound Heaven Holy Land. Back then, the ancestor Xian Tian fought a decisive battle with War God, and both sides perished together. However, a small part of the ancestor Xian Tian's consciousness escaped. For countless years, this consciousness had been hiding in the small world of the profound Heaven Holy Land, absorbing the dark power of the profound Heaven Holy Land in an attempt to revive. Now, no one knew whether the ancestor Xian Tian was dead or alive. Although the Cloud Mist Monarch and the aristocratic families wanted to destroy the profound Heaven Holy Land, they were worried about the ancestor Xian Tian and did not dare to take this risk. After all, the ancestor Xian Tian was a peerless expert who had undergone 8 lightning tribulations and cultivated the primordial spirit. Therefore, the champion marquis walked into their field of vision. Your idea is right. A half-dead ancestor Xian Tian is very attractive to a greedy guy like the champion marquis. It's easy to get him to take the bait. Liu chuckled. He was looking forward to the champion marquis trip. Young man, plunder as much as you can. The profound Heaven Holy Land still has a supreme treasure. After Nalen, Dark Emperor, and Heavenly Snake King were swallowed by Tao Tai, Liu extracted their memories. He was very familiar with the situation of the profound Heaven Holy Land. Of course, the ancestor Xian Tian was not dead. Over the years, he had been absorbing the dark power and his strength had recovered a lot. In addition, the profound Heaven Holy Land's small world also had the supreme treasure Star of Darkness left behind by Xian Tian Supreme. An 8th tribulation ghost immortal who has yet to recover, and a Holy Emperor's divine artifact. Young man, if you can get them, I'll give you a reward and let you bring disaster to this world. Liu smiled and drove the cloud platform to follow the champion marquis from afar. He planned to watch the show from a close distance. As the cloud platform moved forward, the scenery of the grassland changed. On the boundless prairie, there were no longer only tents. A city had already appeared below. Majestic cities stood tall on the endless grassland. Tall city walls, huge buildings, gorgeous palaces, wide roads, dense shops, and crowds of people. Such cities were not inferior to the cities in Deqian. Outside the cities, there was still an endless grassland. Cows and sheep were everywhere, and tents were densely packed. This reflected the characteristics of the grassland of the Western Cloud Empire. This is the center of the Western Cloud Empire, the Golden Wolf Plains. Liu pointed at the scenery below and introduced to Xiao Tingting. The origin of the name Golden Wolf Plains is from a kind of wild beast here, the golden wolf. The light curtain created by the space separation spell did not affect the view inside. So Liu and Xiao Tingting were still enjoying the scenery. The Golden Wolf Plains was thousands of miles wide. Except for a few cities in the center, it was surrounded by endless grassland. There were countless animals living in it, and the most famous one was the golden wolf. Awoo! In the hills below, there was a huge wolf howl. The grass swayed like waves, and a golden figure rushed out like an arrow. The figure rose into the air. It was a golden wolf with golden hair all over its body and the size of a calf. The golden wolf's target was a bison. Its fangs were like daggers, shining white and cold under the sun. The golden wolf pounced and bit the bison's neck. With a swing of its head, the bison's neck was bitten off, and the bison was killed in an instant. Good heavens, it's as good as a tiger. Liu nodded in admiration. This golden wolf was more ferocious than a mastiff. It was indeed the totem beast of the Yuan Meng kingdom. Liu was admiring the heroic posture of the golden wolf hunting when the system prompt sounded in his ears. Liu took a look and found that it was Tao Tai who sent the situation of the Marquis of Champion. Huh, have they already started fighting? Then let's wait and see. Chapter 246. There was only endless darkness in front of him, and there was nothing else. In the thick darkness, it did not seem gloomy and cold. Instead, it carried a tranquil aura. Darkness was the destination of all living beings, the end of all things. The world was born of light, but it would eventually return to darkness. This was the black sky, limitless great Tao of darkness. The Marquis champion stepped into an endless dark world from the Black Sky Mansion's main hall. This was the small world of the Black Sky Holy Land, the Black Sky Extreme Dark World. A small world full of dark elemental energy? How can such abundant, dark elemental energy be wasted? I also cultivate the Black Sky, Great Tao. A greedy light flashed in the Marquis champion's eyes, and he directly released Tao Tai. Roar! As soon as Tao Tai appeared, it immediately opened its mouth and frantically devoured the dark elemental energy in this small world. An invisible black hole was born, and an incomparably huge suction force frantically absorbed the dark elemental energy. In this small world, the dark elemental energy rapidly gathered, revealing a huge vortex. The so-called Devouring Heaven Great Tao was essentially the system's resource library's recycling function. In Zhou Yi's world, even the immortal fire in the fire domain could be collected. Now, collecting the dark elemental energy was naturally not a problem. Not long after, the dark elemental energy in the entire space was swept away by Tao Tai. After absorbing the dark elemental energy, this world clearly appeared in front of the Marquis champion. In the void in front, a pitch-black star was rotating. The entire star emitted a deep darkness. A huge aura was emitted from the star, as if it was the final destination of all things in the world. In the calm, it contained the supreme essence of the world's origin. This is the Dark Star? Primordial Sun, God, Spiritual Master, Tao Master Xuantian's natal magic treasure? The Marquis champion's eyes flashed. There's actually such a treasure? I'm indeed blessed by the heavens. Ha ha! The Marquis champion laughed and was about to reveal the image of Tao Tai and directly swallow the Dark Star. Suddenly, the Dark Star shook violently, and endless dark elemental energy rushed up like a volcanic eruption. After the violent explosion, the dark elemental energy rapidly shrank. It shrank and condensed until the endless darkness was completely converged. A figure that represented the world's darkness origin gradually appeared. The figure condensed by the darkness stood in the air, and an extremely tyrannical magic power fluctuation shook. Boom, boom, boom. The mighty aura caused the entire small world to rumble, and the heaven and earth essence chi bowed to it. The monarch of darkness, the supreme ruler of the curtain of night. He had returned. The divine might was like a prison. Tao, a master Xiantian? When the Marquis champion saw this figure, his entire body trembled. This was because the figure condensed from the darkness was exactly the same as the Dharma idol of the god he had visualized in the Xiantian sacred scripture. No, it's not Tao Master Xiantian. The Marquis of Champion immediately denied his guess. This person must be the direct disciple of Tao Master Xiantian, the Dark Emperor Taoist. The reason why the Marquis Champion was so sure was because of the information provided by the Yimeng world. Secondly, the divine horn armor and the divine spear of War Mang on his body started to move crazily after the figure appeared. The war god, Shang, and the Dark Emperor Taoist were mortal enemies. The two of them fought countless times and finally perished together. However, from the looks of it, the Dark Emperor wasn't completely dead yet. Shang, the figure condensed from darkness, slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with pure darkness, releasing two extremely dark lights. So, it's the successor of Shang? The Dark Emperor Taoist glanced at the Marquis champion without any change in his expression. Human immortal body and divine soul of a ghost immortal of the fourth tribulation. He even cultivated the great Tao of Xiantian. The successor of Shang cultivated the great Tao of Xiantian. How interesting. Interesting? There's something even more interesting. The Marquis Champion could no longer hold back the killing intent surging from the armor and spear. His body swayed, and the spear in his hand whistled out. Seamless domain. Endless blood-red brilliance blossomed on the spear blade. The monstrous sharpness turned into a blood-red dragon that ruthlessly stabbed at the Dark Emperor Taoist. Shang's spear technique actually allowed you to innovate and innovate. Not bad. The Dark Emperor Taoist nodded in praise and then waved his sleeve at the Marquis Champion. With a wave of his sleeve, there was a loud rumble. The overwhelming darkness surged up like a raging tide and swept across like a hurricane. The violent dark turbulence annihilated everything. Everything in the world would eventually return to darkness. Even the Marquis Champion, a human immortal, was helpless against this power that caused everything to return to silence. Rumble, rumble. The storm annihilation swept the Marquis Champion up and blasted him far away. Bam! The Marquis Champion crashed into the void barrier of this minor world before coming to a stop. Spitting out a mouthful of blood, the Marquis Champion felt as if his entire body had been crushed. Just how strong is this old fart? The Marquis Champion was aghast. After killing so many people along the way, even Autar Qian's clone and Zhou's founding ancestor were killed by him. The Marquis Champion was full of himself and thought that he no longer feared anyone other than the Dream God base. However, he was as weak as a baby in front of the Dark Emperor Taoist. There was no room for resistance. To be able to survive after being hit by the dark storm of annihilation, you are quite capable. You're worthy of me being a little more serious. The Dark Emperor Taoist glanced at the Marquis Champion and slowly raised his hand. Dark brilliance of the heavens, heaven heart seal. He formed a heart-shaped seal and gently pushed it out. Bam! 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 The sound of a giant drum beating could be heard from the handprint. This was the sound of a heartbeat. The heaven heart seal manifested the sound of heaven's heart. Bam! The sound of the heartbeat like a drum in the Marquis Champion's mind. The Marquis Champion felt his heart thump with the beat of the drum as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The continuous drumming caused the Marquis Champion to spit out blood again and again. What kind of strange merit law is this? The Marquis Champion was both shocked and furious, but there was nothing he could do. He couldn't resist the Dark Emperor's attack. Haha, the Marquis Champion is nothing in front of the Dark Emperor. Liu was watching the battle closely. Seeing this, Liu chuckled, feeling deep sympathy for the Marquis Champion. Although the Dark Emperor Taoist underwent 8 lightning tribulations and formed a nascent spirit, he was still quite weak. After taking War Mourner down with him, he only had a few ideas. This kind of injury isn't that easy to recover from. Why is he so strong? Looking up, Liu quickly found the problem. But Liu had no intention of interfering in this matter. Whether the Marquis Champion died or not, it didn't make any difference to Liu. If the Marquis Champion died, the Taodai Jade Pendant that the Dark Emperor Taoist obtained would fall into Liu's hands and be at his mercy. At this moment, the Marquis Champion only had half a breath left. I'm the son of heaven. How can I die here? The Marquis Champion was unwilling. I have Emperor Yu's treasure in my hands. My future is definitely... At this moment, the Marquis Champion's eyes lit up as if he had found a chance to counterattack. Chapter 247. Why was Taoist Dark Emperor so powerful? An 8th tribulation, ghost immortal with a primordial spirit. Even in ancient times, he would be a tyrant and would be extremely powerful. But when he fought with War God War, Taoist Dark Emperor only had a few thoughts. An 8th tribulation, ghost immortal was not a sun god Taoist. He could not achieve an indestructible mind and immortal soul. It would not be easy for these few thoughts to recover to the 8th tribulation, ghost immortal realm. It was impossible for Taoist Dark Emperor to recover to the 8th tribulation, ghost immortal realm. Otherwise, how could the number one person in the world, Dream God Base, stand out? If Taoist Dark Emperor really recovered, why would he hide like a turtle? In this desperate situation, Marquis Champion had a flash of inspiration and finally found the problem. The Star of Darkness. This was a treasure left behind by the ancient sun god Taoist Shintian. This was the reason why Taoist Dark Emperor was so powerful. Taoist Dark Emperor had been extracting the power of the Star of Darkness to cast spells. With his remnant soul, he could not even control the Star of Darkness. So, he looked very powerful, but it was all an illusion. Roar! The pitch-black Taotai appeared out of thin air and charged towards the Star of Darkness floating in the void. Damn it! Taoist Dark Emperor could no longer maintain his calm demeanor. His expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly changed his target, bombarding Taotai with spells one after another. But it was meaningless. Taoist Dark Emperor's attacks landed on the Tao Ye's image. The Taotai did not even shake, completely ignoring these attacks. What was the Taotai? It was just a virtual image created by the system. This was completely made up by Li Yu to fool people. How could a virtual image be attacked? The so-called heaven-devouring Tao was essentially the system's resource repository's recovery function. This Taotai image was the same whether it was there or not. As long as the resource repository's recovery rules were met, even immortal items like the Bronze Immortal Palace could be recovered. What were the recovery rules of the resource repository? Objects that were not controlled by anyone, from a speck of dust to an immortal item or divine item, as long as they were not too big to be swallowed, they could be recovered. If it was a living thing, then it had to be imprisoned and unable to move. Or even if it could move, it was too weak to resist the recovery of the resource repository. If this rule was met, then anything could be recovered. The Star of Darkness was Sun God, Taoist, Dark Emperor's treasure. Taoist Dark Emperor could extract its energy, but with his remnant soul body, he could not control it. Therefore, the Dark Star was an object that no one could control. Roar! Under the horrified gaze of the Dark Emperor, the Taotai opened its huge mouth and swallowed the Star of Darkness in a single gulp. Boom! Dark Emperor was Dark Emperor, was Dark Emperor Dark. Dark Emperor was Dark Emperor. Was Dark Emperor Dark Emperor, Dark Emperor's body. After the black fog dissipated, all that was left was an illusory figure that was pieced together by countless thoughts. Ha 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 ha! The Marquis Champion roared with laughter, complacent and arrogant to the extreme. Old man, you beat me up so badly just now. Dark B. The Marquis Champion roared as the long spear in his hand pierced through the air. The wind howled as the spear light flashed like lightning. The blood and chi in his entire body exploded as the heavenly light horn divine armor emitted a brilliant blood-red light. The long spear was like a blood-red dragon as it whistled towards the Dark Emperor. Do you really think I'm a pushover? Dark Emperor snorted. Then his spirit body, which was condensed from his will, burst with an extremely dark light. I heard that Tao Master Xintian performed a spell in the outer heavens. His body turned into extreme darkness, the extreme of heaven and earth, the ruins of all things, the silence of all living things. Taoist Dark Emperor began to chant an unfathomable scripture. His majestic voice rushed out and penetrated the spatial barrier of the small world, spreading to the greater world. At this moment, all the dark power within 1,000 miles of the Xintian Holy Land seemed to have heard the call and rushed into this small world. Xintian Extreme Darkness Spell. This was Tao Master Xuantian's strongest spell. Once cast, it could gather the dark power of heaven and earth and merge it into one's body. To the Dark Emperor, after losing the source of the Dark Star's power, this spell was the last straw that could save him from his current crisis. Xintian Extreme Darkness Spell? Marquis Champion, who had also learned the Xintian scripture, naturally knew the use of this spell. Seeing Taoist Dark Emperor cast this spell, the Marquis Champion sneered. Want to absorb the dark power of the outside world? Then let's see who's more powerful. Marquis Champion's mind moved, and the huge image of Tautai appeared again. Tautai roared at the sky and opened its black hole-like mouth. It sucked in the dark power crazily. Endless suction force was generated, and the huge black hole rapidly absorbed the dark power. Taoist Dark Emperor was far inferior compared to the system's recovery function. The dark power gathered by the Shantian Extreme Darkness spell couldn't be absorbed much before it was sucked dry by Tautai. Ha ha! Old thief, you're dead meat. Marquis Champion laughed wildly. A clear light flashed, and his figure instantly appeared behind Taoist Dark Emperor. Avicii hell! Blood-red light flashed. Marquis Champion swung his spear and stabbed at Taoist Dark Emperor. Taoist Dark Emperor didn't expect Marquis Champion to have the ability to travel through the void. He was caught off guard and was stabbed by Marquis Champion's spear. Crack! The spear stabbed, and a huge amount of human immortal blood energy erupted. Taoist Dark Emperor's soul body let out a sound like glass shattering. With a whoosh, Taoist Dark Emperor's body collapsed and turned into tens of thousands of sparkling thoughts. Among these thoughts, there were more than a dozen thoughts that were as bright as stars. The rest were like pearls that were the size of eggs. The dozen or so bright stars were naturally the 8 tribulations of Taoist Dark Emperor. The rest were slowly recovered over the years and were far from being comparable to the 8 tribulations thoughts. Roar! These thoughts collapsed and were about to escape. With a loud roar, the Tao Hia's huge mouth swept past these thoughts and swallowed them in an instant. Ha ha! I'm invincible! Marquis Champion looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. You can still counterattack? Hee, not bad. Liu nodded in admiration while eating melon seeds. Marquis Champion can actually find a chance to turn things around? Young man, not bad. You have a bright future. Of course, whether Marquis Champion died or not, it had no effect on Liu. If he didn't die, he would just let him continue to cause trouble. In the end, Marquis Champion's life and death were in Liu's hands. The Dark Star is a good thing. Liu glanced at the dark star that appeared in the resource warehouse and nodded with satisfaction. The Holy Emperor's divine weapon, and it was also Tao Master Xuantian's personal weapon. This was extraordinary. Its power was even stronger than the Pan Huang's sacred sword and was only slightly weaker than a peak divine weapon like the Boat of Fortune. The Dark Star was huge and was completely a meteorite. It was much bigger than Sky City and was made of extremely dark gold. Just the materials alone were very precious. Young man, you did well. Keep up the good work. Chapter 248. Since the Marquis Champion is so awesome, then give me some benefits. Liu smiled and gave the system an order. System, extract all the memories in the Dark Emperor's mind and record them into the database. Then, send all of the Dark Emperor's soul power to the Marquis Champion. To Liu, the only value of the Dark Emperor's mind was the information in the memories. Liu did not care about that bit of soul power, so he could give it to the Marquis Champion as a reward. Liu did not care about it, but to the Marquis Champion, it was good stuff. Shantian Extreme Dark World. Ha ha! I am indeed the son of destiny, favored by fate. The Marquis Champion laughed and was wild with joy. At this time, the Marquis Champion was even more surprised. His mind shook slightly, and a series of brilliant crystal lights merged into the Marquis Champion's sea of consciousness. Countless crystal lights shone like a brilliant river of stars. These are thoughts? So many thoughts? The Marquis Champion was first shocked, then he was instantly overjoyed. After the Dark Emperor's close to 100,000 thoughts were cleansed by the system, they became pure soul thoughts. These thoughts merged into the Marquis Champion's sea of consciousness. As long as the Marquis Champion fused with his soul, he could instantly turn them into his own power. Although most of the Dark Emperor's close to 100,000 thoughts were only equivalent to the third lightning tribulation, there was a lot of them, The Marquis champion had gone through 4 lightning tribulations before he could split them into 7,200 thoughts. Only after going through 9 lightning tribulations could he split them into 129,600 thoughts. Now, after the Marquis champion fused with these thoughts, he had 100,000 soul thoughts. That would require 8 lightning tribulations to achieve. His soul power had increased by nearly 10 times. More importantly, among these thoughts, there were more than a dozen 8th lightning tribulation divine soul thoughts that were as bright as stars. As long as the Marquis champion's soul fused with these thoughts, it would allow him to have the soul essence of an 8th lightning tribulation in advance. Aha! This is great. This is great. With this, the Marquis champion could immediately go through 2 lightning tribulations and reach the 6th lightning tribulation realm. The heaven-devouring Great Tao is indeed powerful. It devours everything to nourish itself. Although a lot of it is consumed when absorbing and transforming, these soul thoughts are extremely pure without any impurities. Not bad. Not bad. The Marquis of Champion had thought that the Dark Star and Taoist Dark Emperor's combined energy would be the result of these divine soul thoughts. Although he felt that the loss was a little big, he didn't have any doubts when he thought about the huge loss of energy conversion. Liu naturally couldn't be bothered with what the Marquis champion was thinking. So what if he had his suspicions? Could it be that he still wouldn't use Tao Tai? Since the show was over, there was no need to stay here any longer. Riding on a cloud platform, Liu continued to head north. Along the way to the north, Ting Ting and the little foxes enjoyed the scenery and played with each other every day. Days passed like this. Liu randomly chose a direction and let the cloud platform float forward. His mind was already on the Dark Star. What exactly is the Heart of Darkness used for? Liu didn't know how to deal with the Heart of Darkness. Only someone like Tao Master Xiantian would be able to use an asteroid as a weapon. This thing was really too big. If it smashed down, it would be like a comet hitting the Earth. Did it have to be so fierce? I don't lack weapons. Let's change it to something else. Liu thought for a moment and felt that he just happened to lack a means of transportation. It seemed that he could change the Dark Star into a carriage. I don't have any suitable information on a carriage. In those 2 young god thoughts, there is a structure of the Boat of Fortune. In Xiaofeng's world, I also scanned the ancient race's space-breaking airship. Let's get a flying ship first. Thinking of this, Liu gave the system an order. Refer to the structure of the Boat of Fortune and the space-breaking airship and transform the Dark Star into a flying ship. Following Liu's order, the brilliant multicolored light in the resource warehouse enveloped the Dark Star. It was broken down, refined, fused, and shaped. The huge Dark Star melted in the multicolored light and was then reconstructed according to the structure deduced by the system. A moment later, a gorgeous dark golden flying ship appeared in the resource warehouse. Little Ting Ting, let's take the ship. Liu waved at Little Ting Ting and said with a smile, "Ship? But there's no water here, and we don't have a ship." Little Ting Ting looked at Liu in surprise, not understanding what Liu meant. I have a ship." Liu chuckled and waved his hand outside the cloud platform. Boom! A huge flying boat instantly appeared outside the clouds. The huge hull of the boat manifested, causing the surrounding space to rumble. Wow! Little Ting Ting was shocked. Then, she clapped her hands and shouted and jumped. What a big ship! What a beautiful ship! I want to take the ship! I want to take the ship! This was indeed a huge flying ship. The dark golden hull was thousands of feet long, hundreds of feet wide, and about 10 feet tall. The huge hull floated in front of them, like a mountain range in front of them. This huge, dark golden flying ship was in the shape of a dragon. The hull was engraved with exquisite patterns, and the ship above was richly ornamented. The entire flying ship was mysterious and gorgeous, exuding a noble and majestic aura. Let's go up then. Liu smiled and waved his hand. The cloud platform rose and landed on the deck of the flying ship. Go and play. After arriving on the flying ship, Liu saw Little Ting Ting, who was eager to try. He smiled and waved his hand, letting them explore the flying ship by themselves while he went to the control room. It actually took 1/3 of the Dark Star's energy to modify the flying ship. Is this thing useful or not? He reached out and pressed on the rudder, activating the flying ship instantly. The entire ship trembled slightly, and streams of light bloomed. The flying ship had been activated. With the power of the Dark Star as the energy source, it can travel thousands of miles in an instant. With the Dark Sky Extreme Darkness Shield, it can also cast the Dark Annihilation Storm. It's still passable. With a sweep of his mind, Liu took control of the flying boat and understood its functions. Then I'll use it first. With a thought, he drove the flying ship forward through the air. The huge size and vast space of the flying ship made little Ting and the little foxes go crazy. They explored and played hide-and-seek. They had a lot of fun. Liu took out a wine pot and took out a deck chair. He sat on the deck and drank while basking in the sun. He was very relaxed. Which expert has come? Just as Liu was leisurely, a woman's voice suddenly sounded in front of him. He looked up and saw a bright moonlight shining from the top of the mountain below. A belt of light floated out and turned into a great path made of light. On the light path, a young girl wearing a red veil leisurely walked over. This young girl was tall and slender, and her appearance was beautiful. What was surprising was that on the young girl's forehead, there were 2 3-inch-long, bright red dragon horns that looked like corals. Dragon Lady? I came to Sky Dragon Mountain? Chapter 249. Dragoness is here. Seems like I could do another experiment. Liu smiled, stood up, and waved his hand to collect the miscellaneous items on the deck. He put away his sloppy appearance and assumed the posture of an expert. A stream of light flashed, and the dark gold flying ship stopped. Liu waved his hand to disperse the dark sky extreme darkness barrier that enveloped the flying ship. He stood on the deck with his hands behind his back. His white robes fluttered in the wind, making him look otherworldly and otherworldly. The immortal, exquisite jade pendant hanging on his waist hummed in the wind, emitting an ethereal celestial sound as if it was resonating with the great Tao. The figure stood at the bow of the ship, but it was as if he had transcended heaven and earth and stood above all living beings. Seeing this scene, Dragoness was greatly shocked. Her original attitude of denouncing a punitive expedition immediately fell. She was already feeling a little uneasy. Heaven and earth resonated with every move he made. What kind of astonishing realm is this? The older one was, the more cowardly they became. Dragoness had gone through 5 lightning tribulations and had a deep understanding of power. She had a very deep understanding of the ethereal celestial sound emitted from Liu's body. Then, she was even more frightened. If it was someone who didn't know anything, regardless of whether it was a celestial sound or a ghost cry, they would just chop it down with a knife. Liu's posture really couldn't intimidate her. She could only roll up her sleeves and act recklessly. So you're a descendant of the dragon race. Liu glanced at Dragoness and nodded with a smile, looking like a senior looking at a junior. It's fate that we meet. Dragoness, please board the ship for a chat. Since Senior has summoned me, how can I not obey? Seeing Liu's attitude, Dragoness became even more restrained. She bowed to Liu before stepping onto the flying ship. Aol1 greets Senior. Dragoness stepped onto the flying ship and bowed respectfully to Liu. No need for formalities. Liu held her up, and Dragoness stood up solemnly at the side. After the primordial dragon race disappeared without a trace, there are still descendants living in this world? Liu smiled and looked at Dragon Lady. He waved his hand, and an old chair and tea table appeared on the deck. Liu gestured towards Dragoness and said, "Please sit. Thank you, Senior, for granting me a seat." He had casually set up a chair, and she could not even feel the ripples of space power. Dragon Lady was even more shocked. "So you're a dragon descendant?" He was half human and half dragon. Due to his dragon bloodline, his cultivation progressed rapidly. But the road ahead will be difficult. Liu glanced at Dragon Lady and shook his head. Senior's discerning eyes are correct. Dragon Maiden's face revealed a hint of bitterness. Ever since I started cultivating, I broke through to the ghost immortal realm in 10 years and underwent 5 lightning tribulations in 20 years. His cultivation progressed rapidly, but now he's been stuck at the 5th tribulation for nearly 100 years. Dragon Lady's situation was very special. She was different from the average Yao immortal. Half dragon and half human. The dragoness had the characteristics of the dragon clan from her body to her spirit. Although the dragoness had strong chi and blood, she could not enlighten her apertures. Even if she reincarnated, she could not get rid of the dragon soul's characteristics in her spirit. Benefiting from the bloodline, but also limited by the bloodline, Dragon Lady sighed secretly in her heart. However, her birth was not up to her. This was something that could not be helped. Dragon Lady's eyes suddenly lit up. She quickly got up and knelt in front of Liu. Senior, please enlighten me. Liu's face was full of smiles. But in his heart, he muttered. As expected, she took the bait. Please rise. Please rise. Since I've met you, I might as well help you. Liu smiled and helped Dragon Lady up. He reached out and gently knocked on the coffee table in front of him. He glanced at Dragon Lady and said, To solve your problem, only a pure bloodline and spirit can do it. There are 2 paths here, human or dragon. What will you choose? Human? Dragon? Dragon Lady's body trembled. She was pleasantly surprised and conflicted. Should I be human or dragon? Human, there are more than billions of people in this world. Dragon, you're the last one. Liu picked up the teacup and took a sip. He mentioned this intentionally or unintentionally. To Liu, of course, he wanted her to lean in the direction of a dragon. He still wanted to experiment with the dragon transformation true method that he had created. Yes, I'm the only dragon left. She thought about the disappearance of the primordial dragon race and the decline of the dragon descendants. Now, in the entire great wide world, she was the only dragon that was still alive. Dragon Lady took a deep breath and made up her mind. Her pale golden eyes revealed a sense of determination. Her bright red dragon horns shone brightly. Senior, please bestow the dragon transformation true method. Since you have such a heart, then I'll fulfill your wish. Liu smiled and nodded. With a flick of his finger, he sent the dragon transformation true method that he had deduced into Dragon Lady's sea of consciousness. As soon as the dragoness stepped onto the airship, Liu had the system scan the information of the dragoness bloodline and deduce the true dragonization method that was suitable for all scaled creatures in the world to transform into dragons. This is seeing the dragon transformation true method appear in her mind. Dragon Lady was shocked and happy. Her entire body trembled slightly. Dragons are the bloodline source of scaled creatures. Condense true blood, return to the origin, and transform into a dragon. Then, open the acupoints, unify the soul and body, and reach the yang spirit. Hiss! The shock in Dragon Lady's heart was indescribable. Originally, she had resolutely embarked on the path of dragon transformation because of the sense of mission of the dragon race. She did not want the dragon race's bloodline to be cut off. However, she did not expect that this dragon transformation true method would point directly to the yang spirit. Becoming a yang spirit with a dragon body was simply defying the heavens and changing one's fate, seizing the good fortune of heaven and earth. The foreign species in this world, even the divine beasts such as dragons, phoenixes, cheilants, and other divine beasts, although they were born with supernatural powers, long lifespans, and tyrannical strength, could never become a yang spirit and could never transcend. This was because in this world, only humans could open the acupoints. Even divine beasts could not open the acupoints, unify the soul and body, and become a yang spirit. No one knew the reason for this. Therefore, this was also the reason why humans were called the prides of all living things, the proud sons of heaven. Liu, who had analyzed the truth through the system, was speechless. Humans were indeed the proud sons of heaven. This was because although humans were not as strong as other races, they had a talent to be able to sense the power of the stars. From this, they could easily find the location of their own acupoints. The method of measuring acupoints in this world was summarized on the basis of sensing the power of the stars. However, other foreign species did not have this talent. They could not sense the power of the stars and could not find their own acupoints. Something that could not be found, over time, was regarded as non-existent. Aol1 is eternally grateful for Senior's kindness. Dragon Lady bowed deeply to the ground and kowtowed heavily to Liu. Senior, please bestow your name so that Aol1 can know the name of my benefactor. My name is Yu. Liu chuckled and said the name that scared people to death. Yu, Emperor Yu? His Majesty Emperor Yu. Dragon Lady trembled and opened her mouth wide, unable to close it for a long time. That's right. Other than His Majesty Emperor Yu, who else could it be? Who else would have such a great supernatural power to defy the heavens and change one's fate? Emperor Yu is virtuous. Emperor Yu is merciful. Dragon Lady cried tears of joy and kowtowed heavily to Liu. Chapter 250. Thank you, Your Majesty. Dragon Lady Aol1 thanked Liu with a heart full of joy. Then, she took out a 3-foot-long crystal from the storage pouch at her waist and held it in her hand. The crystal was sparkling and translucent, like a perfectly straight, treasured sword, emitting a righteous and high-spirited aura. Dragon Soul Consciousness. You're finally taking it out? I knew you wouldn't be able to resist it. Liu snickered in his heart. Liu had given her the true dragon transformation technique not only to complete his experiment of creating a new technique for the demon race, but also for the dragon graveyard. Seeing Aol1 take out the dragon soul consciousness, Liu knew that his plan had succeeded. Your Majesty, this is the dragon soul consciousness. If I cultivate with the true dragon transformation technique, can I absorb the dragon soul consciousness or even the true dragon bloodline to speed up my cultivation? Aol1 asked Liu respectfully. Of course. The dragon soul consciousness and true dragon bloodline will definitely speed up your transformation. Liu smiled and nodded. The dragon soul consciousness and true dragon bloodline can only be found in the dragon graveyard. Since you want to transform into a dragon, you should inherit the dragon bloodline. Go to the dragon graveyard. You can inherit the bloodline of your ancestors. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your guidance. Aol1 bowed, but there was a hint of awkwardness in her expression. Oh, I forgot. The Jambu formation outside the dragon graveyard is extraordinary. Although you are a dragon descendant, your bloodline is weak. Once you enter, you will be attacked by the formation. With your current strength, I'm afraid you can't enter the dragon graveyard. Liu said seriously, but he was laughing in his heart. The dragon graveyard. He had long had his eyes on it. Of course, as Emperor Yu, as a sun god cultivator, how could he do such a thing? Of course, he couldn't do it himself. Your Majesty, you are wise. Dragon Lady Aol1 bowed. Although he knew that the dragon race's Jambu Great Formation was insignificant to His Majesty Emperor Yu, Aol1 didn't dare to think of asking His Majesty Emperor Yu for help. Firstly, His Majesty Emperor Yu had already bestowed him with a cultivation technique, which was already a huge favor. If he still wanted to have more ideas, he was simply too greedy. Secondly, would a farmer dare to ask the ruler of a country to help him farm? His Majesty Emperor Yu's status was more than 1,000,000 times more honorable than the monarch of a country. Liu chuckled and said to Aol1, how about this? I'll find you a helper. How could Liu let go of the dragon graveyard that he had been eyeing for a long time? Although it wasn't appropriate for him to personally dig up graves, the monkey could. Wu, come to my place for a bit. With that, Liu gently waved his hand and opened up a spatial tunnel. The somersault cloud shook and the monkey, whose body was shining with golden light, somersaulted out. Greetings, Supreme Lord. The monkey landed on the deck and bowed respectfully in front of Liu. Get up. Liu waved his hand and helped the monkey up, then turned to Aol1. This is the helper I found for you. He. When Aol saw the monkey, she could feel the yang energy in the monkey's body that was like the sun in the sky, the brilliant acupoints phenomenon, and the vast aura that seemed to resonate with the stars. Her heart was in turmoil. It really works. It really works. Mutants can also open their acupoints. Mutants can also cultivate to become immortals. Aol was so excited that her body trembled. What are you looking at? The monkey felt uncomfortable under Aol gaze and could not help but glare at her. Cough, cough, my bad. My bad. Aol blushed and quickly apologized to the monkey. Woo, this is Dragon Lady Aol. Follow her to the dragon graveyard and help her retrieve the ancestral dragon bloodline and dragon soul consciousness. Liu instructed the monkey. Yes. The monkey hurriedly obeyed. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty. Aol was overjoyed. She only felt that His Majesty Emperor Yu was really too good to her. He was really saving her from suffering and saving all living beings. Let's go. The monkey released the somersault cloud and waved at Aol. Thank you, brother monkey. Aol bowed and leaped onto the somersault cloud. My lord, I'm going. The monkey bowed to Liu and then somersaulted out. The somersault cloud broke through the sky and disappeared in an instant. The monkey will get the dragon graveyard with this trip. Haha, very good. Liu chuckled and turned to look at little Ting Ting, who was making a ruckus in the flying boat. He shook his head. You've been making a ruckus for a long time. It's time to go back. With a thought, the flying boat broke through space and returned to the West Mountain Valley in an instant. After releasing little Ting Ting and the little foxes, Liu kept the flying boat and returned to the loft. In the void, the monkey rode the somersault cloud and traveled at lightning speed. Aol held something that looked like a compass in his hand. He bit his finger and dripped a drop of blood on the needle of the compass. The compass buzzed, and the needle spun and pointed to a direction in the void. Brother Monkey, over there. Aol pointed the direction to the monkey according to the pointer. Got it. With a flash of clear light, the somersault cloud broke through the void and rushed out. In the void beyond the heavens, the vast void was dead silent. Only the endless power of starlight condensed into a vast sea of light. Boom! A loud sound broke the silence of the void. In the chaotic sea of light, the somersault cloud broke through the void and revealed itself. It's there! It's there! Charging out of the void, Aol pointed ahead and yelled, I see it. The monkey replied and drove the somersault cloud forward. Thousands of miles ahead, there were countless thick, scale-shaped clouds. The scale-shaped clouds spun rapidly. In the middle of the clouds, there was a huge, pitch-black hole. All the clouds revolved around this hole. Brother Monkey, this is the Jambu Formation. Only by passing through this formation can we reach the real dragon graveyard. This is an immemorial god formation. It's extraordinary. Aol looked at the monkey and continued. I've been here many times. I can't even get past the boundary of the formation. The moment I got close, my soul was almost blown apart by the Jambuine thunder. Formation? No worries. The monkey chuckled and drove the somersault cloud toward the cloud layer. In a short while, they reached the boundary of the cloud layer. Rumble, rumble. Just by standing outside the clouds, one could feel the earth-shattering sound of thunder coming from within the clouds. The immemorial 36 thunders have boundless power. It's endless and endless. Brother Monkey, how do we get in? Standing outside the formation, Aol face was pale from the earth-shattering thunder. How could the power of an immemorial god formation be underestimated? If not for the fact that no one was controlling this formation, with Aol mere fifth lightning tribulation cultivation, her soul would have been blown apart before she could reach the boundary of the formation. How do we get in? The purple, gold-coiled dragon cudgel appeared in the monkey's hand. He grinned. Of course we hit. Don't. Aol was scared out of her wits. Her face was pale. Chapter 251. Stop. Wu, don't be rash. Liu, who had been paying attention to the situation, hurriedly stopped Monkey's actions. What the hell? Monkey really likes to be rash. Liu shook his head with a bitter smile. The sacred battle apes had the word battle in their tribe name. One could only imagine how warlike this tribe was. On the monkey, this point seemed to be even more obvious. In Monkey's mind, if there was a better way than smashing it with a stick, it would definitely be 2 sticks. The Jambu Great Formation is an ancient godly formation. How can we let such a thing go? Liu chuckled and hurriedly connected to Monkey's somersault cloud. System, connect to the somersault cloud and activate the scanning function. Scan the Jambu Great Formation. Following Liu's command, the somersault cloud under Monkey's feet emitted a formless wave that swept across the Jambu Great Formation silently. Scan complete. In an instant, the system had scanned the Jambu Great Formation. 9 holy emperor godly treasures as the core of the formation. Just this formation alone is worth a lot. Liu looked at the formation scanned by the system and nodded with a smile. The entire formation was a 9-palace grid. The formation was squarish, with 9 squares arranged in 3s and 3s. However, each square was further divided into 9 palaces. There were palaces within palaces and palaces within palaces. It was endless. In each of the 9 main palaces, there was a godly treasure. These 9 treasures supported the operation of the Jambu Great Formation. This formation is actually the Jianlong tortoise shell, a gigantic tortoise shell. Looking at the complete formation displayed by the system, it was actually a 9-palace grid Jianlong tortoise shell. This thing is like the Hichu Luo Shu. Liu chuckled. Of course, this could not be the Hichu Luo Shu. Monkey can't wait any longer. Forget it. I'll show him the way first. System, analyze the Jambu Great Formation and decipher the way to safely enter and exit the formation. With that command, the system completed its task. Very good. Liu nodded and directly transmitted the method of breaking the formation into the monkey's mind through the somersault cloud. In the void, the monkey was stopped by Liu. It let out a few hollow laughs, rubbed its head, and put away the purple-gold coiled dragon cudgel, then obediently stopped outside the formation. Brother Monkey, we cannot force our way through this Jambu Great Array. Once the formation is attacked, the formation will be activated, and its power will be unleashed. Even the masters of creation will die. As a dragon descendant, Aol1 naturally had some understanding of the floating Jambu formation. This kind of primordial divine array, even if there was no one presiding over it, it was still not something that ordinary people could withstand. Seeing the monkey put away the rod, Aol1 heaved a long sigh of relief, and his complexion returned to normal. It's all right. Everything's fine now. Monkey chuckled and pointed to the Jambu formation, saying, There's no problem now. Just now, the High Lord told me how to break the array. It's all right now. Oh, that's good. Aol1 heaved a sigh of relief. With His Majesty Emperor used mystique, breaking the Jambu Great Array was naturally a piece of cake. Riding the somersault cloud, the monkey followed the route in his mind and charged into the Jambu Great Array. Rumble, klala, endless thunder boomed, and the violent impact made Aol1 see stars. And this was when he was on the safe route, without being hit by the sea of lightning. He only heard some sounds and felt some vibrations. If he was really hit by the primordial 36 thunderbolts, even a high-level human immortal like the monkey would be left with only a few bones. In front of him, a dense cluster of green light whizzed past, and the green light exploded. The earth-shattering impact made Aol1's body sway. "He would divine lightning," Aol1 exclaimed and hurriedly hid behind the monkey. He took a deep breath and steadied himself. It's not like we can hit anything. What's there to be afraid of? The monkey pursed his lips and rode the somersault cloud, following the route Liu had given him. After a while, green light filled the sky. Amidst the endless green light, there was a huge tree that was as green as jade, standing tall in the green light. Green dragon wood. Seeing this jade-green tree, Aol1's jaw dropped. The legendary sacred wood of the green dragon tribe looks like this? Who cares if it's sacred or sacred wood? I'll take it first. The monkey rode the somersault cloud and charged into the green light. Following Li Yu's instructions, he activated the resource recovery function of the somersault cloud. A huge black hole appeared above the green dragon wood, and a powerful suction force sucked the green dragon wood into the resource vault. Rumble. The Jambu Great Array shook violently. 1/9 of the green light on the huge 9 palaces grid was completely extinguished. Continue. The monkey kept the green dragon wood and then rushed to the next location. Thunder Dragon Gourd, Water Dragon Cauldron, Fire Dragon Mirror, Golden Dragon Dagger Axe, White Dragon Shell, Wood Dragon Egg, Wind Dragon Flag, Yellow Dragon Cauldron. The monkey swept through the 9 great treasures of the Jambu Great Array like a hot knife through butter. Boom! There was an earth-shattering explosion. The endless clouds dispersed, and a huge tortoise shell floated in the air like a small island. Jambu tortoise shell? Keep it. The monkey had no intention of being courteous. Liu did not either. And so, the Jambu Great Array that had covered the dragon graveyard since ancient times disappeared just like that. The Jambu Great Array is broken. Even now, Ao1 seemed to be in a daze. The array is broken. The monkey grinned and waved the cudgel in his hand, feeling that it was not satisfying at all. How could this kind of loophole be as satisfying as smashing it with a cudgel? Let's go. The monkey called out, rode the somersault cloud, and charged towards the dragon graveyard. After the array was broken, the two passed through a void barrier, and the dragon graveyard appeared before them. It was a huge planet. On this planet, there was a vast blue ocean of vast and boundless land, winding lofty mountains and steep ridges and a mighty Yangtze River. The land was boundless, and the lofty mountains were verdant, emitting boundless vitality. This is the dragon graveyard? This was the first time Ao1 had come to the dragon graveyard. Seeing the scene before her, she was so shocked that she could not speak for a long time. In the greater world, the sky was round and the earth was round. But there was actually a spherical world before her. This left Ao1 scratching her head. So, a world could be spherical? So that's how it is. Seeing this, Liu nodded. He had also gained some understanding of the overall distribution of this world. In the greater world, the sky is round and the earth is round. In the middle world, the earth is round and the earth is round. In the lesser world, the earth is square. The world that Deqian was in was the greater world, the center of the universe. Its sky was round and the earth was round. The space was vast and boundless, and no one had ever found the end of the world. Outside the greater world, also known as the heavens beyond heaven, there were countless middle worlds. The lands of these worlds were all round planets. As for the minor kiliocosm, the square space inside those storage magic treasures was the minor kiliocosm. There are many good things in the dragon graveyard. Liu smiled, looking forward to the monkey's harvest. Chapter 252. Such a big planet. It's not much smaller than Earth in my previous life. Liu exclaimed. Then he got the system to search for the dragon graveyard through the somersault cloud. Of course, this planet could not be full of dragon graveyards. It was just that the dragon graveyards were on this planet. It's in the far north. Looking at the vast land of ice and snow displayed by the system, Liu chuckled and sent the address to Monkey, leaving them to deal with it. Monkey and Dragon Lady rode the somersault cloud and landed on the planet. The ground here is so thin. Monkey landed on the ground and stepped on the ground. He pouted and said, "The ground is like an eggshell. It's only about 10 miles thick and it's filled with magma. This should be a medium-class world. Of course, it can't be compared to the greater world." The greater world? You really don't know your limits. I'm afraid even the sun god Venerable can't find out how thick the ground is. Ao1 looked around and said, "This planet is so big. It's going to be troublesome to find the dragon graveyard." Troublesome? The supremacy is very powerful. He can see through everything. He already told me the location of the dragon graveyard. Monkey grinned and somersaulted on the somersault cloud. Come! Aol1 jumped on the somersault cloud in surprise. The two of them headed north. In a moment, a vast land of ice and snow appeared in front of them. The whistling wind was bone-chilling. It was as if their bones were about to be frozen. So cold. After the somersault cloud rushed into the land of ice and snow, the endless cold made Ao1 shiver. Even her voice was trembling. Yeah, it's a little cold. Monkey shook his body and shook off the ice on his body. He frowned slightly. That's strange. With my cultivation, I'm already immune to heat and cold. Why'd I still feel cold? Although it was strange, Monkey continued to move forward. The further they went, the colder it became. Brother Monkey, please stop. We can't go any further. Aol1 shivered, and fear appeared in her eyes. Brother Monkey, I remember now. The dragon returned to the sky, and the elemental ice formed pillars. There's Taichu Motetsu here. We can't go any further. Taichu Motetsu? What the hell? Monkey was taken aback as he stopped the somersault cloud. He turned to Aol1 and asked, Is that thing very powerful? I'm not sure either. Aol1 shivered from the cold. But it's already so cold now. If we continue forward, my body will freeze into ice. He will leave her outside. You go on by yourself. Taichu Motetsu is the origin of all coldness between heaven and earth. It represents the initial coldness of heaven and earth. It can even freeze one's soul, so I won't let her in. Liu promptly sent a message to Monkey. If he really wanted Aol1 to enter, Liu had plenty of ways to do so. However, Liu didn't want Aol1 to go in. How could he do such a thing in front of Aol1? Upon hearing Liu's instructions, Monkey quickly rode the somersault cloud and retreated from the world of ice and snow. Phew! As the fog churned, Aol1 finally recovered. Her face was no longer as pale as before. Wait here first. I'll help you get the thing out. Monkey waved to Aol1, then rode the somersault cloud and rushed out. Sigh. Aol1 stretched out her hand, but before she could speak, Monkey was gone. I can't even withstand the cold chi in the outer layer. The real dragon's tomb must be even colder. I hope Brother Monkey can reach it safely. Aol1 sighed and found a place nearby to sit down and wait for Monkey to return. SSSS. The monkey shuddered. The surrounding cold was even more intense. Even his human immortal physique could not withstand it. You monkey, you don't know how to make use of such a good opportunity? Is your 9 revolutions heavenly art for show? Liu's voice rang out in Monkey's mind. Monkey scratched his head and laughed foolishly. He quickly activated the 9 revolutions heavenly art. This was the supreme technique of the battling sacred ape tribe. Monkey had yet to cultivate it to perfection because he lacked such an opportunity. Compared to Liu, who started from scratch, Monkey was born with a human immortal physique. His cultivation speed was much faster. In less than a year, the 9 revolutions heavenly art had reached the dragon realm. Now that he was stimulated by the extreme cold of Taichu Motetsu, it was the perfect opportunity for Monkey to perfect his technique. Once the 9 revolutions heavenly art reached the dragon realm, his body would be complete. Together with the human immortal physique's opened acupoints, Monkey's strength would definitely skyrocket. Brilliant divine light shone from Monkey's body. Monkey stood proudly on the somersault cloud and focused on activating the technique. He allowed the somersault cloud to continue forward, enduring the increasingly intense cold. When the somersault cloud stopped in front of a huge ice palace, the monkey standing on the somersault cloud had been frozen into an ice sculpture. Taichu Motetsu, the coldest thing in the world. Even the consciousness of a creator would be completely frozen by this extreme coldness if it wasn't sufficiently prepared. At this moment, Monkey was completely frozen. Even his breathing and heartbeat were gone. 9 revolutions heavenly art, life from death. Monkey, it's not that I want to cheat you, but this is the technique that your ancestors left behind. Once you pass this stage, you will be able to see the world. The monkey's ancestor, the sacred battle emperor, had placed himself in a cauldron to refine for 49 days before he managed to refine his body to perfection. The 9 revolutions' heavenly art was just so torturous. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, after 9 days, Aol was about to panic from waiting outside. Finally, Monkey moved. Bam! 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 The heavy heartbeat was like a war drum. Brilliant golden light shone, and the ice on the surface of Monkey's body shattered. Roar! In the golden light that filled the sky, a giant golden ape that was over 100 feet tall waved its arms and roared at the sky. The powerful sound waves shook the heavens. That's Brother Monkey? Aol heaved a sigh of relief. Then, she was shocked by Monkey's strength. Brother Monkey is so strong? The golden light gradually receded, and Monkey's body also shrank back to the size of a normal person. He moved his arms and legs casually, and the powerful force caused the air around him to explode. It was as if the air itself had been shattered. You've achieved perfection. Not bad. Liu chuckled. It's time to loot. Through the system, Liu saw the dragon graveyard and nodded with a smile. Thousands of primordial dragons and Taichu Motetsu. This is a huge haul. Chapter 253. In front of him was a gigantic ice palace. Wow, it's like a crystal palace. Monkey was speechless when he saw the majestic beauty of the ice palace. Compared to Monkey's palace, this ice palace was less majestic but more exquisite. Around the palace, there were gigantic ice pillars. These ice pillars were like pillars that supported the heavens, reaching into the clouds. The crystal-clear ice pillars shone with a brilliant light. There were more than 1,000 icicles in the air. Dragon? Dragons are in the pillars? There was a gigantic, primordial dragon frozen in every single ice pillar. Monkey blinked his eyes, feeling like his horizons had been broadened. Head like a camel, eyes like a shrimp, ears like a cow, horns like a deer, neck like a snake, belly like a crocodile, scales like a carp, claws like an eagle, and palms like a tiger. This was a true dragon, the dragon race that once dominated the primordial era and reigned above all life. Around the ice palace, there were more than 1,000 ice pillars that reached the heavens. There were more than 1,000 dragons sealed in these ice pillars. Each dragon was over 1,000 feet long. In the ice palace, there was an even larger dragon sealed in ice. This enormous dragon was thousands of meters long, and its entire body flickered with golden light. Its enormous scales were naturally covered with profound and unfathomable runes. A dragon. When Liu saw this scene, he took a deep breath. Dragons had a very special place in his heart. Before he transmigrated, he was also the successor of the dragon. These dragons before him were not the 9 fiery flame dragons that were imitated by Dermic arts. They were also not the half-formed dragons on Dragon Island in Xiaofeng's world. They were true dragons that were exactly the same as the image in Liu's heart. They were born with the strength of an early-stage human immortal. They could ride the clouds and change their size. Their soul cultivation could also reach the realm of 9 lightning tribulations. However, because they were unable to open their acupoints, they could not fuse their soul and body. In the end, they were annihilated in the long river of history. Li let out a long sigh. The dragon lived for 10,000 years. This was also the reason why the emperor called himself a dragon. However, the dragon died in the sky. Only his soul died. His body was frozen in Taichu Motetsu, but it was still alive. We'll keep it. Liu sighed and waved his hand, getting the monkey to keep the frozen dragons. Yes. Upon hearing Liu's command, Monkey opened a resource bank on the Somersault Cloud and opened a recycling channel. An invisible black hole appeared above the dragon pillars, and a huge suction force sucked the dragon pillars up one by one, sucking them into the resource vault. Not long after, the 1,000 dragon pillars were swept clean. Monkey turned his gaze to the gigantic palace in front of him. A formless black hole enveloped the ice crystal palace. Together with the palace and the gigantic dragon, they were sucked into the resource vault. Very good, very good. What a great harvest this time. Liu nodded with a smile. He recalled that Ao1 still needed to be dealt with, so he issued an order to the system. System, scan all the giant dragons and compare them to Ao1's bloodline. Choose a true dragon bloodline suitable for her to inherit. Since he was using the excuse of helping Ao1 as His Majesty Emperor Yu, how could he go back on his words? Since he had taken the lion's share, he had to give it to her through the cracks of his fingers. The system quickly completed the comparison of the bloodline information and reported the results. White dragon. Seeing the system's answer, Liu suddenly did not know whether to laugh or cry. There was already a monkey, and now there was a little white dragon. Would there be a poor monk from the Tang of the East who would accept all of them as disciples in the future? What about the pig demon from the Gao village? What about the bearded fish demon from the quicksand river? Liu shook his head and chased these messy thoughts out of his mind. There were already 1,000 dragon pillars in the resource vault, and there was also an ice palace with the ancestral dragon's body sealed in ice. There were 1,000 dragon pillars, and the dragons sealed in ice were of different colors. Clearly, they were all true dragons, but there were still some subtle differences. Aolwan's dragon bloodline came from the white dragon, so she could only absorb the white dragon's bloodline. Liu chose a white dragon from the dragon pillar, then instructed the system, according to Aolwan's needs, extract the white dragon's bloodline and dragon soul consciousness from the dragon pillar and send it to the monkey. After sending Aolwan away, Liu did not bother about her anymore. Dragon Graveyard. The monkey rode the somersault cloud and rushed out. Brother Monkey, you're back. Aolwan saw the monkey and welcomed him happily. The monkey jumped off the somersault cloud and nodded to Aolwan. I brought back what you wanted. However, the supremacy said that the dragon graveyard is the resting place of the dragon race, and this can't happen again. Yes. Aolwan bowed respectfully and replied, Aolwan will definitely not disturb the rest of the ancestors again. There won't be a next time. The monkey waved his hand and grinned. The supremacy has already taken away the dragon graveyard. With the supremacy taking care of the dragon graveyard, no one will disturb the dragon graveyard in the future. Of course, this was what Liu told the monkey to say. Virtuous Emperor Yu. Aolwan revered His Majesty Emperor Yu even more. Emperor Yu was powerful, and with him taking action, the dragon graveyard would definitely be a resting place for the dragons and would never be found again. In fact, it was indeed impossible to find again. Now that it was in Liu's bowl, who would dare to have any ideas? This is what the supremacy asked me to bring back for you. As the monkey said, he waved his hand and took out a pile of 3 feet long, beautiful crystals. Then, there was also a golden blood that shone brightly and had a vast aura. Thank you, Brother Monkey. Aolwan opened the brocade bag on her waist and kept the dragon's soul consciousness and true dragon bloodline. After keeping the items, Aolwan looked at the monkey in embarrassment. Brother Monkey, with the true dragon bloodline and dragon soul crystal, I will be able to transform into a dragon immediately. Can you please protect me while I'm cultivating? All right. The monkey frowned and was about to reject. However, Liu gave him an order to protect Aolwan. The monkey had no choice but to agree. Whether or not the dragon transformation true skill could be used, Liu himself was not sure. Now that there was a test subject that was about to produce results, he naturally could not let it go. Thank you, Brother Monkey. Aolwan smiled and thanked him. Then she sat on the ground and placed all the dragon's soul crystals around her. She waved her hand and took out the true dragon blood that looked like molten gold. Transforming into a dragon. It's all up to me now. Activating the dragon transformation true skill. Aolwan opened her mouth and sucked the true dragon blood into her mouth. At the same time, the dragon soul crystals around her shattered and pure dragon soul energy flowed into Aolwan's mind. Boom! With a loud explosion, Aolwan's body exploded and turned into a bloody mist. The monkey was dumbfounded and muttered to himself, "She's dead? She should be dead, right? Supremacy, you've killed someone." Chapter 254. Monkey, do you have a death wish? Liyu's mouth twitched when he heard the monkey's words. System, record all the data of Aolwan's transformation into a dragon. Liyu instructed the system before continuing to observe Aolwan's transformation. Yes, Aolwan was not dead. After exploding into a bloody mist, a bright golden light shone from within the bloody mist. In an instant, the golden light shone brightly. Amidst the bloody mist, the bright red color gradually faded, leaving only the brilliant golden light shining in the bloody mist. The bloody mist that filled the sky gradually turned into a ball of golden mist. The golden mist churned, and gradually a vigorous life force was born within the golden mist. Thump, thump, thump. The sound of a heavy heartbeat could be heard as the golden mist filled the sky. Within the endless light, the faint shadow of a dragon gradually appeared. Hee, so it's not dead yet. The monkey scratched his head and laughed awkwardly. He widened his eyes and stared at the golden mist in front of him. The golden mist churned even more violently, and the heavy heartbeat became even more intense. Gradually, the life force within the golden mist became more and more boundless. An ancient vicissitude and domineering aura was born from the golden mist. Once this aura was released, the surroundings fell silent. Birds and beasts did not dare to make a sound, and insects did not dare to move. Roar! An earth-shattering dragon roar soared into the sky. Clouds surged, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. The golden mist that filled the sky suddenly converged, revealing a gigantic dragon that was about 10 feet long. Its entire body was snow white, and it flickered with fluorescent light. It was like white jade, and it let out a long and resounding roar as it soared into the sky. Roar, roar, roar. The resounding dragon roar reverberated through the clouds. After disappearing for tens of thousands of years since the primordial age, the true dragon once again appeared in this world and let out a resounding roar. Clouds and mist rose. Within the surging clouds and mist, the true dragon slithered and swam. Its joyful roar reverberated through the air. She's quite a troublemaker. The monkey grinned and waved at the little white dragon in the sky. Hey, stop fooling around. It's time to go back. Roar! When the white dragon heard the monkey's voice, it let out a long roar and descended with a howl. We go back. Aolwan nodded, then turned its head to look at its body. A hint of helplessness flashed across its golden eyes. Brother Monkey, I can't go back in this state. This. Monkey scratched his head and shook his head helplessly. Aolwan was indeed unable to return. In the past, although Aolwan was a dragon girl, she only possessed the bloodline of the dragon race. Now, she had become a true dragon. There was a huge difference in this. No one paid any attention to Dragoness. But for a true dragon, dragon blood, dragon scales, dragon horns, dragon bones, dragon skin, and dragon meat were all good stuff. Dragon scales and dragon skin could be used to make armor. Dragon horns and dragon bones could be used to forge weapons. Dragon blood and dragon meat could be consumed to strengthen one's vitality. If Aolwan went back like this, there would definitely be countless people coming to slay the dragon. Woo! Bring her to see me. Since Aolwan had successfully transformed into a dragon, he could control her. Of course, Liu would not let her go so easily. The merchant city stronghold was set up at Huabwa Mountain. Huabwa Mountain was surrounded by the sea. If the dragon race stayed in the sea in the future, they could also be one of the forces guarding the merchant city stronghold. How could Liu not tamper with the things he gave? The true dragon blood that Aolwan absorbed naturally included the loyalty mark. The supremacy has ordered for you to meet him. Monkey said to Aolwan and released the somersault cloud with a wave of his hand. I'm honored that your majesty has summoned me. Aolwan rose into the air and landed on the somersault cloud. "Let's go," Monkey called out. With a flash of clear light, the somersault cloud broke through the air. Not long later, a clear light flashed above the West Mountain Valley. The somersault cloud broke through the air and landed in front of the small pavilion. "Let's go. The supremacy is inside." Monkey kept the somersault cloud and brought Ao1 into the small pavilion. Passing through the wave-like light screen, the two of them arrived at a hall in the heavenly tomb space. Liu sat high up in the hall and looked at the two of them with a smile. "Greetings, Supremacy. Ao1 greets your Majesty." Monkey and Ao1 bowed to Liu in unison. "Rise." Liu waved his hand and gestured for the two of them to rise. "Your Majesty is gracious. Ao1 has succeeded in transforming into a dragon. It's just that I don't have a place to stay for the time being. Please take me in, Your Majesty." Ao1's huge dragon head was bowed to the ground and kowtowed to Liu continuously. "It's your fortune to be able to transform into a dragon. Since you're fated, follow me and cultivate for the time being. When you're successful in your cultivation and have no fear of others, come to the East Season family and be my companion." Liu smiled and nodded. "Thank you, Supremacy." Disciple Ao1 thanks the Supremacy for your grace. What a blessing it was to be able to cultivate by His Majesty Emperor Yu's side. Ao1 was overjoyed and copied the monkey to address Liu as Supremacy. "Rise." Liu waved his hand and gestured for Ao1 to rise. Liu looked up at Ao1's dragon body and nodded. "Not bad. After transforming into a dragon, your blood essence is equivalent to that of a human immortal. Once you open your acupoints, you'll quickly become a human immortal. It's all thanks to the Supremacy's grace." After transforming into a dragon, Ao1 could clearly feel the enormous blood essence in her body. She was very surprised but still sighed inwardly. As a woman, although her dragon body was also very beautiful, it was still too different from a human body. She still felt a little regretful. When you cultivate your body to the realm of shape-shifting, you'll be able to transform into a human. Liu seemed to have read Ao1's mind and reminded her with a smile. "That's right." Ao1's golden eyes flashed, and she perked up. "As long as I cultivate to the realm of shape-shifting, won't I be able to transform into a human whenever I want? There are many halls here. Choose one. Stay here and cultivate from now on." Liu instructed Ao1. Ao1 then took her leave. The monkey also left the valley and returned to Huagua Mountain. At this point, Liu had not only taken in the dragon graveyard, but also Ao1, who had just become a little white dragon, as a subordinate. The harvest this time is really great. Liu looked at the new items in the resource vault. Even he felt that he had profited greatly. The 9 divine treasures and the Jambu tortoise shell in the Jambu Great Formation were all treasures on the level of the Holy Emperor. All of them were extraordinary. More importantly, the Jambu Great Formation itself contained countless formations, allowing Liu to decipher the formation Tao of this world. The dragon graveyard, the ancestral dragon, and the 1,000 true dragons were all living corpses and were very valuable. And the Taichu Motetsu were also very precious treasures. Besides that, Liu also found a storehouse of dragon tooth rice in the Ice Crystal Palace. This extremely precious rice nourished the body, strengthened the blood essence, and replenished vital energy. There were no impurities, and it was a treasure of heaven and earth. Chapter 255. After collecting so many things, I still have to deal with them. Liu looked at the loot in the resource warehouse and decided to clear out. There were 9 treasures in the Jambu Great Formation. Green Dragon Wood, Thunder Dragon Gourd, Water Dragon Cauldron, Fire Dragon Mirror, Golden Dragon Dagger Axe, White Dragon Shell, Hui Dragon Egg, Wind Dragon Flag, and Yellow Dragon Cauldron. There was also the Jambu Tortoise Shell. The green dragon wood could be planted in the garden. Other than the Wood Divine Lightning, the green dragon sacred wood also has abundant wood-type spiritual chi. It's a good item. Liu nodded and looked at the remaining items. The Thunder Dragon Gourd is a gourd that contains boundless lightning energy. I'll put in a lightning pool in the immortal abode. The Water Dragon Cauldron, Yellow Dragon Cauldron, Fire Dragon Mirror, and Wind Dragon Flag will be placed in the Elixir Hall. He did not know what to do with the remaining items. The Golden Dragon Dagger Axe was a weapon. Li did not lack weapons. The White Dragon Shell was a white scallop the size of a wheel. Other than decoration, Liu did not know what to do with it. These two items could only be put aside for now. Lastly, the Hui Dragon Egg. This egg is still alive. Liu saw that the system had categorized the Hui Dragon Egg as a living resource. He took a closer look and realized that this Hui Dragon Egg was still alive. The Hui Dragon was not a real dragon. Its shape was similar to the black tortoise. After the Hui Dragon matured, its body was huge. Its shell was like a huge island when it floated above the water. This thing, I can keep it for fun when I'm free. I'll put it aside for now. Other than the 9 treasures, there was also the Jambu tortoise shell. Apart from the Jambu Great Formation on top of the tortoise shell, the treasure that was refined from the back of the Hui Dragon was also extraordinary in nature. Refining it with the Sky Tomb and turning it into a portable immortal abode seems like a good idea. The remaining items were the Taichu Motetsu, the Real Dragon, and the Dragon Tooth Spiritual Rice. I'll put the Taichu Motetsu first. I'll use it as a material in the future. As long as my soul enters the body of the real dragon, I'll have 1,000 real dragons for me to command. Liu turned to look at the Dragon Tooth Spirit Rice and nodded with a smile. This thing is very useful. If he planted them in the garden of the Immortal Mansion, he would be able to harvest them endlessly in the future. This is what it means to eat natural treasures like rice. Liu smiled and nodded. Just as he was about to close the system's repository, he suddenly saw the Pan Huang sacred sword in the repository and hurriedly stopped. This thing, it's a waste to use it as a weapon. What Liu lacked the least was weapons. He even had the Green Lotus Monarch weapon and more than a dozen legendary sacred weapons. Thus, the Pan Huang sacred sword was somewhat superfluous as a sword. Liu took a look at himself. His white robe was a saint-level true treasure, and on his waist hung the immortal exquisite jade pendant and the soul buster bell. I still don't have a full set of equipment. Liu smiled and shook his head. The golden crown on his head, the jade belt on his waist, and the boots on his feet were all ordinary items. It was too embarrassing. We've already gained so much. Naturally, I have to have a full set of saint-level equipment. Liu looked at the repository and chose a few items. Then, he began to create equipment for himself. System used the White Dragon Corolla as material to create a jade belt. The White Dragon Corolla was pure white, like white jade. Its material was extraordinary. It was a divine-level true treasure of the Holy Emperor and contained abundant frost power. It had the ability to calm the heart, nourish the spirit, and protect the mind. The system instantly broke down the White Dragon Corolla and created a jade belt according to Liu's request. He took out the jade belt and took a look at it. Seeing that the jade belt was exquisite and elegant, Liu nodded in satisfaction and put it on. System used the Pan Huang sacred sword as material to create a golden crown. The Pan Huang sacred sword was branded with the Holy Emperor's Yang God consciousness. He had refined his own Yang God Great Tao into this sacred sword. Courage, wisdom, benevolence, integrity. What majestic and righteous aura. As Emperor Yu, how could he not have such noble sentiments, noble cultivation, and noble morals? Even if he didn't, he had to have it. Soon, a simple and exquisite golden crown appeared in Liu's hands. There were no colorful jewels, only a simple and unadorned noble aura. Courage, wisdom, benevolence, integrity, for types of noble auras silently seeped out, making people feel reverence. Good heavens! The moment he wears this golden crown, his reputation has been raised to reverence. Liu laughed and immediately put on the crown. He reached out and tidied his clothes, then slowly walked. As he walked, Liu felt that his every movement exuded endless majesty. His posture was imposing, and his aura was dignified. He really had the aura of the Holy Emperor. Haha, not bad. Not bad. Liu stood with his hands behind his back and chuckled. Looking down at the boots on his feet, he thought, this is the only thing that I haven't changed. Looking at the resource storage, Liu chose the Wind Dragon flag. The Wind Dragon flag was made of dragon skin and had the ability to control the wind. This flag had no use in Liu's hands, so it was just right to make a pair of boots. A pair of boots with the ability to control the wind. With just a casual step, one would be able to control the wind. Floating in the air, handsome in the air, what kind of pretentious act was this? According to Liu's request, the system quickly made the boots. Putting on the boots, Liu flicked his sleeves and walked slowly. Liu didn't use any divine ability. He relied solely on the power of his boots to control the wind. Liu walked in the air as if he was walking on flat ground. He looked like a celestial being. Not bad. Not bad. Liu nodded in satisfaction. At this point, Liu was equipped with a full set of saint-grade equipment. A gentleman wears brocade to show his nobility. A gentleman wears a sword to show his virtue. So I still need a sword. Liu smiled and took out the long sword that he got from the crocodile ancestor from the resource storage and hung it on his waist. This saint weapon was about 4 feet long, and its shape was similar to a tang saber. It was single-edged, and the blade was straight. It was exquisite but not flashy, low-key but noble and luxurious. It was very suitable for Liu's pretentious style. With a full set of top-notch equipment, should I go and kill a monster? Not returning home after riches was like walking in the night. Liu is now a little bit like walking in the night. Forget about killing monsters. I can go and test its power. Liu's mind moved, and he walked out of the tomb of heaven. With a sway of his body, he tore through the void and arrived at the outer space. This part of the outer space was densely covered with countless meteorites. It was a good place to test the sword. Clang! He unsheathed the sword. Liu used the Battle Saint technique to perform the Great Void Sword Chi and swung his sword at the group of meteorites in front of him. Clang! A shrill sword sound soared into the sky. The incomparably sharp sword Chi cut through the void and whistled as it slashed at the group of meteorites. When a sword was swung, nothing could stop it. Everything before the sword light, including the flowing starlight in the void, was split into two by the sword. However, as soon as the sword was slashed out, an unforeseen event occurred that left Liu dumbstruck. Chapter 256. This sword was extraordinary. Using the Battle Sage technique to simulate Qi Song Zi's Great Void Sword Qi, he perfectly recreated the sword will of Qi Song Zi Sword Way. The way of the sword cultivator was to destroy the stars in the sky with a blade of grass in hand. Moreover, the sword in Liu's hand was a holy weapon. Therefore, this sword was unstoppable. Liu's sword was just a test. It was just a random attack without a target. However, some things were just so coincidental. The moment the sword light struck, there was a sudden vibration in the void in the direction of the sword light. A huge force tore the void apart, revealing a pitch-black space tunnel. In the space tunnel, a majestic and energetic figure stepped out of the space tunnel with his head held high. He exuded a majestic aura and a strong will to conquer the greater world. Then, a dazzling sword light tore through the sky and struck down. Only a shrill scream was left. This majestic and insufferably arrogant figure was cut into pieces by this sudden sword light the moment he stepped into the void. Dying before one's ambition was realized would make heroes weep. The sword light, which had not yet exhausted its power, whistled as it rushed into the pitch-black spatial passageway. Boom! With a violent explosion, the space tunnel instantly shattered. Boundless void power swept out, stirring up the entire space into chaos. Vaguely, Liu seemed to hear screams and roars coming from the other side of the space tunnel. Liu opened his mouth wide and was stunned. I really didn't do it on purpose. He was just testing the sword and accidentally killed someone. After being stunned for a while, Liu came back to his senses. What the heck? I even encountered such a thing. You guys, how unlucky you are. Lee let out a long sigh and was a little dispirited. He sheathed his sword and returned to the West Mountain secluded valley. He had walked away, but he didn't know how great the impact of this sword strike was and how many people were frightened. Heavens beyond heaven, on a huge planet, on a vast black iron platform, stood a group of figures with vast and majestic auras, exuding an iron-blooded killing intent. On the black iron platform, endless streams of light flashed, opening up a pitch-black and deep spatial passage. Everyone, the spatial passageway to the immortal realm has been opened. In the immortal realm, there was a method to immortality. The world of immortals had countless treasures of heaven and earth. The immortal world has everything that we can only dream of. A tall and stalwart figure stood on the platform, his loud and impassioned voice reverberating in the space. The man waved his hand at the spatial passage. Let's fight. We've conquered countless stars, and now it's time to march on the world of immortals. With that, the man stepped into the spatial tunnel and disappeared. Then, clang, suddenly, a shrill sword cry rang out in the spatial tunnel. A sword light that pierced through the heavens, and the earth tore through the sky with an unstoppable will that could cut through all things. It fiercely slashed at the black iron platform. Incomparably sharp sword chi violently erupted, and endless sword light engulfed the entire black iron platform. Everything on the platform was reduced to dust by this sword light. After destroying the black iron platform, the sword light didn't dissipate and continued to slash forward. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out, and the entire planet was cut in half by this sword light before it dissipated. The power of this sword could destroy heaven and earth. Countless people in the heavens beyond heaven were shocked by this earth-shattering sword light. Are the immortals of the immortal realm angry? The Minister of War wanted to invade the immortal realm and angered the immortals of the immortal realm. This sword destroyed a planet? Immortals are actually this powerful? Streams of light rushed into the void, and countless figures with tyrannical auras stood in the air, looking at the planet that was cut in half from afar with shock. Father, we need to rearrange our plans. A handsome and imposing young man frowned as he looked at the star that had been split open. The information we collected doesn't seem to be very accurate. There's actually someone like this in the immortal realm? This kind of existence should be extremely rare. An extremely majestic man stood proudly in the void, looking like a celestial king. There was some shock in his expression, but his expression was still relatively calm. But, as long as this person exists, our plan to invade the immortal realm will encounter great resistance. The youth's expression was still very grave. Then we need to speed up our conquest. The middle-aged man nodded and pointed at the stars that filled the sky. When we conquer the starry sky and gather all our strength, we'll definitely be able to defeat the immortal realm. You should know that there are no true immortals in the immortal realm anymore. This middle-aged man was the overlord of heavens beyond heaven, the peerless sovereign who'd conquered almost the entire starry sky, Su-Yi. And this youth was Su-Yi's son, Su-Wui. The immortal realm they spoke of referred to the greater world, and the immortals referred to Master Yangshun. According to the information we've gathered, the strength of the immortal realm has greatly declined since the primeval age. There aren't even many human immortals of the martial Tao now, so it's the best time for us to invade the immortal realm and rule the heavens. He looked at the split planet and took a deep breath. Heavens beyond heaven doesn't have a strong enough foundation. Here, we can't learn immortal methods, and we can't break through the final realm of martial Tao. We can't shatter the vacuum, and we can't live forever. Su-Yi turned to look at Su-Wui. If martial Tao can't shatter the vacuum, we can't break through the limit of 1,000 years of life. If we don't cultivate immortal methods, we can't reincarnate. You and I, father and son, are blessed by the heavens. How can we die with the grass and trees? Yes. How can we die with the grass and trees? Su Wui clenched his fists tightly. Conquer the immortal realm and obtain the method to live forever. I won't back down. Although the two spoke vehemently, there was still a layer of darkness in their hearts. How terrifying was the power to split a star with one strike, without the strength to shatter the vacuum? How could one destroy a planet with one strike? Although the Su father and son were extraordinary, they still had a long way to go before they could shatter the vacuum. After the acupoints were perfected, the fist intent would take physical form, be reborn from a drop of blood, and undergo a myriad of changes before finally shattering the vacuum. Right now, the strongest Su Yi was only at the reborn from a drop of blood realm, while Su Wui had just achieved the physical form of his fist intent. He was still far from being able to shatter the vacuum. However, as they continued to conquer the heavens, the strength of the father and son would definitely increase by leaps and bounds. Their will to conquer the greater world would not waver. At this time, Liu had already returned to the West Mountain Valley. What he didn't know was that this sword strike had already made him famous in the heavens beyond heaven. The name Star-Slaying Sword had already spread to all the planets in heavens beyond heaven. The wheel of history seemed to have been fiercely twisted again. Chapter 257. That sword had exceeded his expectations. In fact, Liu himself didn't know that the sword would have the power to destroy a star. Apart from the strength of the sword Qi and the sacred weapon, there was also the fact that the stars in the medium-class realm were relatively weak. Of course, all of this had nothing to do with Liu. He didn't even know that the sword had caused so much damage. After returning to the West Mountain Valley, Liu went to the illusory realm to fight with the young emperors. Ao Wan found a hall in the heavenly tomb and went into seclusion to cultivate. Little Ting Ting and the little foxes also went into a state of cultivation. Days passed by just like that. Unknowingly, 3 years had passed since he came to this world. In the heavenly tomb, on this day, Liu, who was sitting in the hall, radiated a dazzling divine light. Amidst the endless purple gold flames, a supreme will that could suppress all worlds and control all things in the world erupted. In an instant, the entire space of the heavenly tomb exploded with a loud bang. It was as if the entire space was trembling under this will. Ao Wan, who was cultivating in another hall, was also trembling. Supremacy, what's going on? Why did he suddenly release such an aura? Ao Wan's face was filled with shock and fear. Who made Supremacy so angry? In the past 2 years, Ao Wan had been cultivating with the True Dragon technique, and her cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. Now that she had fully opened all the acupoints in her body, her martial cultivation had reached the high-level human immortal stage. She had the body of a true dragon, a human immortal stage martial Tao, and a spirit that had undergone 5 lightning tribulations. Ao Wan was now one of the top experts in the world. However, under Liu's supreme aura, Ao Wan couldn't resist at all. It was as if her life and death were in Liu's hands. In fact, that was indeed the case. Liu had been in seclusion for more than 2 years in the outside world, but who knew how many years had passed in the illusory realm? Countless battles, countless killings, countless near-death experiences, countless life and death struggles, countless outbursts in desperate situations, including the origin world. All the martial skills collected by the 4 worlds had finally been integrated into one through the Battle Saint technique in the endless battles. It was also at this moment that Liu condensed his martial will. I, the unique sovereign of the heavens. With the will of my will is the will of the heavens. He absorbed the will of the Tathagata, now Sutra, to dominate the world. At the moment when he had mastered all of his battle techniques, Liu's martial will finally condensed and took form. How do you control the heavens and earth? Only power. One law could evolve into 10,000 laws. In the end, all the techniques merged into one. In the end, Liu transformed all of the battle techniques into a single punch. The power of the fist was power. He punched out. All the images in the virtual illusion shattered. At this moment, Liu had advanced to the realm of fist intent materialization. The so-called fist intent materialization was an existence that could turn one's martial will into something real. The will interfered with reality and changed the heavens and earth. With Liu's eye, the unique martial will, he could change the surrounding heavens and earth with a single move. All living things in the world would be included in his will, and life and death would be under his control. Of course, this range was limited and could not reach the extent where his will could cover 10,000 heavens and earth. If his will could cover 10,000 heavens and earth, then he would be the limitless chaos, primordial chaos saint. Liu was still too far away. With a breakthrough in his martial will, the cultivation of the human immortal realm would be smooth. The rebirth from a drop of blood and myriad transformations were extremely tyrannical and abundant to the extreme. It was a qualitative change brought about by quantitative change. To Liu, this was not a problem at all. The so-called qi in blood is the origin of life. Liu glanced at the resource warehouse and saw the mountain-like body of the crocodile ancestor. He sighed, "You have been an energy source for so long, but I won't need you in the future. System, extract the origin of life from the crocodile ancestor and inject it into my body." With Liu's command, the vast and majestic origin of life gushed into his body like a mighty river. In all the heavens and earth, I, the unique, am the supreme. To control the heavens and earth, only the strongest and invincible power can do so. Martial will controlled his entire body, and his blood vessels connected all the acupoints in his body. The 129,600 acupoints in his body released brilliant divine light, and endless heavenly palaces appeared. Many gods appeared amidst the divine light. There are 100,000 acupuncture points in my body, and there are gods in every acupuncture point? What is a god? I'm a god. An earth-shattering roar erupted from his acupuncture points. All the heavenly palaces and gods were annihilated at this moment. Endless light bloomed, and the majestic origin of life erupted, imprinting Liu's origin of life deeply into every part of his body. 480 million. Liu could clearly feel that 480 million origin of life imprints had been imprinted in his body. These imprints covered every drop of his flesh and blood. Every drop of his flesh and blood carried Liu's origin of life imprints. As long as there was a drop of flesh and blood left, Liu could be reborn from a drop of blood. After the martial will was condensed, Liu directly used the crocodile ancestor's boundless origin of life to reach the blood rebirth realm. There's still a lot of origin of life from the crocodile ancestor. All the origin of life of the ancient demon sage was boundless. Liu had only used up a little less than half of it to reach the blood rebirth realm. Since that's the case, let's continue to break through. After the blood rebirth realm, there were countless transformations. On the basis of the 480 million life imprints in his body, each life imprint could be condensed into 480 million origin talismans. At this realm, the 480 million talismans in his body could gather and disperse at will, changing at will. That was the realm of infinite transformations. The mighty qi and blood continued to pour into his body, and the 480 million origin of life imprints on his body crazily devoured the origin of life, constantly strengthening and growing. Mysterious and unfathomable talismans appeared on the origin imprints, like dragons and snakes, like flowers and vines. The talismans were born one after another, connecting with each other, spiraling and entangling with each other. Although the origin of life imprints were very small, the structure of the talismans was abnormally complex. The life information of the entire human body was revealed in the form of talismans. The entire talisman was complex and deep, like the vast starry sky. Boom! There was a violent explosion. Liu's entire body collapsed with a loud bang, turning into light spots that filled the sky. 480 million light spots floated in mid-air, blooming with light like the stars in the sky. the vast starry sky. In each light spot, streams of light lingered endlessly, and the extremely complex origin talismans bloomed with the brilliant light of life. A huge and vast life aura spread out, as if spring had returned to the earth, and all things were growing. I still can't live forever, but I can already become immortal. 480 million light spots suddenly gathered and condensed, and Li Yu's figure reappeared in the main hall. Feeling the changes in his body, Li Yu was already clear about his body situation. The current him, although there was no breakthrough in his lifespan, was already considered immortal. Chapter 258. When one's martial arts cultivation reached the level of ever-changing, one's body had already been trained to the extreme. If one took the path of sanctification, the next step would be to shatter the vacuum, break free from the shackles, and break the shackles of heaven and earth to obtain 129,600 years of life. 120,000 years of life could be considered longevity, but it was not eternal. If one wanted eternal life, they could only take the path of the sun god and transcend the sea of bitterness to reach the other side. I definitely won't take the path of sanctification. Li Yu had already made arrangements for his own cultivation. When one's martial arts reached the level of ever-changing, one's soul would undergo 9 lightning tribulations, and then the soul and body would become one to become a sun god. In the sun god realm, one would also only have 129,600 years of life. This was still not eternal life. After advancing to the sun god realm, only by transcending the sea of bitterness and reaching the other side could one jump out of the 3 realms and not be in the 5 elements. One's fate was in their own hands. The next thing to consider is the cultivation of the soul. In response to this question, Li Yu bitterly smiled and shook her head. The path of martial arts had already been pierced through by the will of I, the unique and righteous, using strength to suppress all the worlds in the heavens and walk his own path. However, the cultivation of the soul could not be like this. Using strength to suppress was only a means. Controlling heaven and earth was the goal. Therefore, Li Yu's path of the soul had to create a path of control that encompassed all things in the world. I've collected countless cultivation methods and borrowed from various cultivation methods. However, I still lack the key to connecting all the cultivation methods and forming a whole. Li Yu's current accumulation could be said to be extremely huge. He even had 2 young god thoughts and countless pure divine soul power. He had also collected a lot of various cultivation methods. However, these accumulations were like shining pearls. Each of them was very precious, but they were scattered and disorderly. They lacked a string that could thread all the pearls into a string. It seems that I still have to make plans from Hong E. The Book of Changes was the fundamental method of EZ's Tao. It calculated the past and future, everything in the world, and all living beings in the world. This great Tao was the opportunity for Li Yu to achieve Tao. The cicada senses autumn before the wind blows. Since the Book of Changes could calculate everything in the world, it must have found a way to connect everything in the world together. Li Yu didn't need the terrifying calculation ability of the Book of Changes. What he needed was the concept of how everything in the world was connected. But Hong Yi still hasn't obtained the Sutra of Future Lifeless. Li Yu paid a lot of attention to EZ, who became an immortal in 6 years and transcended the sea of bitterness. 3 years had passed, and because of Li Yu's appearance, many people's fates had changed greatly. Because of Li Yu, Hong Yi had obtained the past Amitabha Sutra and the Tathagata Sutra of the present Tathagata Sutra from the very beginning. After being crowned the champion of the imperial examinations, Hong Yi went to the northwest to assist the God Might King in his conquest of the western regions. At this moment, Hong Yi's cultivation base was astonishing. His martial arts had advanced to the beginner stage of the human immortal realm, and his divine soul had undergone 5 thunder tribulations. He could be considered a top expert in the world. As expected of the child of destiny, a key figure in guiding the development of the great Thousand Realms. Liu praised, then frowned slightly. But I destroyed the lifeless and vacuum sex, and Yangpan's future master was swallowed by the champion marquis. Is this why Hong Yi still hasn't obtained the Sutra of Future Lifeless? The Sutra of Future Lifeless was one of the keys to Hong Yi's Book of Changes. Without the Sutra of Future Lifeless, Hong Yi wouldn't be able to write the Book of Changes. Looks like I'll have to deliver the Sutra of Future Lifeless to Hong Yi. As Emperor Yu, he'd given Ez a technique before. It could be said that they were fated to meet, so he'd casually rewarded him with some benefits. If he gave him another technique now, not only would it be beneath his dignity, it would also arouse Hong Yi's suspicions. Then I'll create a fortuitous encounter. Liu chuckled, already having an idea. The champion marquis has been cooped up in Qing province for 2 years. It's time for him to move. In the past 2 years, the champion marquis's power had expanded rapidly. After destroying the Dark Emperor and swallowing the Star of Darkness, the champion marquis immediately passed the 6th lightning tribulation and was only a step away from becoming a master of creation. All the top powers of the Western Cloud Empire had been swept clean by the champion marquis. The only one who could contend against him, Ao Wan, was also taken in by Liu. Thus, the champion marquis was invincible in the Western Cloud Empire. Then, the champion marquis went all out. He killed his way into the Western Cloud Empire's imperial palace, destroyed the soul of the Western Cloud Empire's emperor, Nalan Yi Hong, and took over the body of Nalan Yi Hong. Using the identity of Nalan Yi Hong, the champion marquis gathered all the leaders of the Western Cloud Empire. During the banquet, the champion marquis launched an attack, using the Great Dark Mandara canopy to seal all the leaders of the tribes. Then, the champion marquis used the Dark Heaven Soul Assimilation Curse to control all the leaders of the tribes. At this point, the champion marquis completely controlled the Western Cloud Empire. More than 2 years had passed. The champion marquis had swallowed the accumulation of the Western Cloud Empire for countless years. Referring to the Universe Sutra of the Most Supreme Path and the martial arts of the Western Cloud Empire's imperial family and various tribes, he opened 360 acupoints and became a mid-level immortal. Liu also obtained the Kuan Peng Mystic Chi Sutra of the Western Cloud Empire's imperial family, the Kuan Peng Real Form Illustration, the Witchcraft Totem Technique of various tribes, and various combat skills. As for those huge amounts of spiritual materials, medicinal herbs, profound gold, and the like, Liu had already ignored them. After 2 years, the champion marquis's aura was even more vast and profound, and his domineering will seem to be even more intense. Roar! At this time, the champion marquis, who was cultivating in the mansion of the state of Qing, suddenly heard the crazy roar of the Taotai in his mind. The direction was the northwest of the Great Qian dynasty. Something has aroused the Tao Yi's interest again. The champion marquis stood up and walked to the window, looking towards the northwest with a smile on his face. The war between the western regions and the Great Qian dynasty has been in a stalemate. Now that something has aroused the Taotai, then has the vital energy spirit been mobilized? The champion marquis chuckled and licked his lips. Vital energy spirit, the ancient Rashomon Gate, these are all good things. After swallowing them, I will definitely be able to become a creator. Azure light flashed, and the champion marquis's figure disappeared instantly. Northwest of the Great Qian dynasty, Shazhou, Hong Yi sat still in the military tent of the Shazhou camp, his eyes focused on the girl sitting cross-legged in front of him. With the sound of thunder, Chan Yinsha let out a long breath of turbid air and slowly stood up. Hong Yi, after dual cultivating with you this time, I feel like I'm about to make a breakthrough. It's time to cross my tribulation. Tribulation? This is not a good place for tribulation. Hong Yi pointed at the endless military tents outside and shook his head with a smile. Definitely not here. Chan Yinsha smiled. I don't have much to do during this period of time, so I can go out for tribulation. With my current strength, I can go anywhere in the world. You don't have to worry about me. All right, Hongi nodded. In this season, only the desolate forest is filled with endless thunderstorms. You can only go there if you want to go for tribulation. I'm going for tribulation. Chan Insha waved her hand, and her figure flashed, whistling through the air. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.